Chapter 4804. Fortunately, after waiting for a long time, Ren Zhongyuan finally got up and said faintly, "Lin Yi must die. No matter what you think of, you must help me kill Lin Yi by hook or by crook, regardless of the cost." They looked at each other, and no one spoke. In the end, it was Yi Xiaotian who spoke. "Brother Run, I can understand your feelings, but with our strength, we can't even deal with one Lin Yi, let alone now that there's another one with the surname Lung. I'm afraid there's no good way." They were already helpless to deal with Lin Yi, and they were also helpless to deal with Long Rufin. Now that these two guys joined hands, how could they deal with them? Everyone looked at each other speechlessly. Compared with Lin Yi, they were actually more afraid of Long Rufin. After all, this guy's strength was too strong. He was almost invincible among the students of the academy, and everyone was afraid of him. The reputation of the cold machete god was gained by slashing with his saber. Except for Lin Yi, who didn't know anything, there was no one in Soaring Cloud Academy who could match him. Ordinary people would be scared and kneel on the spot when they heard his name. Otherwise, when they wanted to kill people with a borrowed knife, they would not have thought of this guy at once. Ren Zhongyuan frowned and pondered for a long time. After a moment, he suddenly said, "What if we wait until Long Rufin leaves?" "After he leaves?" Yi Xiaotian was stunned and suddenly clapped his hands and said, "Yes, Linny is really clever. He wants to win over Long Rufin with the beauty pill and the thunder Xian pill, but in fact, he is simply trapped in a cocoon of his own making. Originally, Long Rufin will stay in the academy to be their bodyguard, but once young Qianxue recovers her appearance and strength, Yes, Brother Ren and Brother Yi are really smart. At that time, Long Rufin will definitely return to the Xuanjiesi area." Li Yuzhou quickly flattered. Sun Baolu added, Yes, the Mystic Step C is an unparalleled temptation for experts like them. A genius like Long Rufin, who thinks he's extraordinary, will definitely not be willing to stay and be a bodyguard. He will definitely do everything he can to return to the Mystic Step C. That's right. It's never too late for a gentleman to take revenge. As long as we endure this period of time, it won't be too late to make a move on Lin Yi. Ren Zhongyuan's eyes flickered with resentment. If it was possible, he certainly didn't want to endure it. However, there was no other way. Reality forced him to endure it unless his father, Ren Tiansuo, was willing to help. Unfortunately, the possibility of this was very small. If it dragged on for too long, he might not be able to wait, but if it was only 2 or 3 months, then it wouldn't be a problem. Brother Ren, Brother Yi, this plan is good, but there's a loophole. What if Linny can't wait for 2 months and leaves? Li Yuzhou asked cautiously. Idiot! Isn't it simple? The monk can run away, but the temple can't. As long as Ningxu Fa is still here, even if Linny leaves, it doesn't matter. We can play a little trick and let Ningxu Fa make an accident and seriously injure her. Are we afraid that he won't come? Humph! Ren Zhongyuan sneered. They looked at each other and laughed. Although the title of West Island's Fuma was coveted, it was also a burden sometimes. As long as they controlled Ningxu Fa, it was equivalent to controlling Lin Yi. Is there any risk in this? Li Yuzhou cautiously reminded them. Ningxu Fa, a little girl who didn't know much about worldly affairs, would naturally be controlled by others. The key was that she was the princess of West Island. Once an accident happened, the entire Soaring Cloud Academy would be shocked. At that time, in order to give a satisfactory explanation to West Island, they would definitely investigate this matter to the end. Even if Ren Zhongyuan and Yi Xiaotian worked together, they might not be able to stop them. Stupid! I said it was an accident. What's the risk? Anyway, I just seriously injured her, not killed her. Ren Zhongyuan curled his lips disdainfully. As long as it was not irreparable, even if West Island knew it, they wouldn't hold on to it. After all, Soaring Cloud Academy was not weak. His father and Yi Xiaoyan's father could support them. That's right. As long as we control it well, it won't be a big problem. Yi Xiaoyan nodded and said, when they were secretly discussing in the private room, they didn't know that the target of their discussion was having a dinner in the private room downstairs. Of course, with the high-end design of this restaurant, the soundproofing effect couldn't be so bad. Normally, no matter how good one's hearing was, it was impossible to hear the conversation in the private room upstairs. Moreover, the wall here had the effect of blocking the divine sense. The restaurant had spent a lot of money on this, and the purpose was to ensure the privacy of the guests. Only in this way could they attract high-class guests. At this time, there were a total of 5 people dining together: Lin Yi Ningxuefei, Leng Rufeng, and Yang Qianxue. In addition, Chen Xingma was also dragged here. Needless to say, Lin Yi and the other 3 people, even with Chen Xingma's strength, under normal circumstances, she couldn't hear the sound upstairs unless she used some kind of divine sense method. With her self-restraint, she wouldn't do such a thing inexplicably. However, although Lin Yi and the others couldn't hear it, it didn't mean that no one could see through the conspiracy of Ren Zhongyuan and the others. At least the ghost thing knew it clearly. Naturally, the conspiracy of these people fell into Lin Yi's ears without missing a word. After listening to these words, Lin Yi's face changed involuntarily. He really didn't expect that Ren Zhongyuan would hate him so much. In order to deal with him, he even had this kind of insidious idea. Fortunately, it was heard by the ghost thing. Otherwise, it was possible that the other party would succeed. What's wrong? Next to him, Ning Xuefei was eating happily. The table full of East Continent specialties was very appetizing, but she still noticed Lin Yi's strange expression immediately. Chen Xingma, Leng Rufeng, and the others also heard her words and looked over. Oh, it's nothing. Lin Yi smiled calmly. With a wave of his hand, he took out a delicate wooden box, pushed it in front of Leng, Rufeng, and Yang Qianxue, and said, "This is the beauty pill. As for the Thunder Xian pill, I still have to refine it on the spot, so you'll have to wait for another 2 days." Leng Rufeng was immediately overjoyed, while Yang Qianxue's eyes lit up as if she had seen a life-saving straw. However, she didn't immediately reach out to take it. Instead, she looked at Lin Yi and Ning Xuefei with some embarrassment. After this period of recuperation, coupled with the fact that she always wore a veil, her mental state was much better than before. At least, she was not as blind and impulsive as before. Now that she thought about it, she was quite embarrassed that she had crazily snatched the beauty pill. In the end, all this happened because of her. Fortunately, the result was still satisfactory. Chapter 48:05. You don't have to thank me. This is what we agreed to do. Linny smiled faintly. Putting away the beauty pill, Leng Rufeng and Yang Qianxue both nodded gratefully. Until then, Leng Rufeng suddenly reacted and said in shock, "You just said that you can refine Thunder Xian pills? Are you a 7th-level alchemist?" Not only Leng Rufeng was shocked, but also Chen Xingma next to him. She only knew that Lin Yi was the son-in-law of West Island and a disciple of the 3 pavilions of North Island, but she never knew that he was a 7th-level alchemist. My God, how old is he? Kind of. Lin Yi and Ning Xuefei looked at each other and smiled. Strictly speaking, the alchemy was done by the magic pesticide cauldron, and he himself was just an assistant to inject true qi into the cauldron. He was not a real 7th-level alchemist, but he could really refine Thunder Xian pills easily. and his efficiency was much higher than that of ordinary 7th-level alchemists. Everyone in the box gasped at the same time, including Chun Xingmo. They all looked at Lin Yi as if he was a monster. The battle in the past half-month had proved that this guy was a monster, but they really didn't expect that this was just the tip of the iceberg. Lung Rufin looked at Lin Yi in a daze and didn't know what to say for a while. He could only drink a glass of wine to calm himself down. To be honest, he was still a little unwilling to admit that he had lost to Lin Yi. If it were anyone else in his position, it would be impossible for him to be completely convinced. It was only because of the previous bet and Lin Yi's promise to give him the beauty pill and Thunder Xian pill that Lung Rufin was willing to work for him as a bodyguard. But now, he really wanted to worship Lin Yi. He couldn't find another 7th-level alchemist at such a young age in the world. Brother Lung, I want to ask, when Miss Yang recovers, will you continue to stay in Shangyun Academy? Lin Yi suddenly asked. After listening to the conspiracy of Ren Zhongyuan and others, this was the most important thing for him to figure out at the moment. Lin Yi quietly waited for the other party's answer. After a long time, Lung Rufin said, 3 months. I will only stay here for 3 months. Only 3 months? Lin Yi immediately frowned. This was exactly what Ren Zhongyuan and the others had expected. That's right. If you don't think it's suitable, you don't have to give me the Thunder Xian pill, and I'll buy the beauty pill at the market price. At the same time, I can be your bodyguard for 3 months. After that, I won't be able to accompany you anymore. I have to get revenge for what happened in the Mystic Step Sea. No one can stop me. Lung Rufin's face was a bit apologetic, but he was very determined. Lin Yi took a deep look at him, raised his glass, and didn't continue to insist. Just now, he deliberately let Lung Rufin know that he was a 7th-grade alchemist. To put it bluntly, he wanted to improve his status and make Lung Rufin want to make friends with him. In this way, he wouldn't have to worry about Ning Shuifei having no one to protect her. But looking at Lung Rufin's expression, Lin Yi knew that the Mystic Step Sea had probably become his obsession. If it weren't for Yang Qianxue, he wouldn't have the patience to continue to stay here. No matter how much Lin Yi persuaded him, it would be useless. At the end of the day, Lung Rufin only agreed to this condition because he lost the duel. The two were enemies before, and their relationship was far from that of friends. Since Lung Rufin wanted to leave, Lin Yi couldn't stop him. What should he do? Lin Yi suddenly had a headache. Since he couldn't make Lung Rufin stay, he had to continue to stay in the East Continent. After all, Ning Shuifei's safety was the first priority. But he couldn't stay here all the time. He had upgraded 2 levels in half a month. Now, simple meditation and cultivation could no longer meet the needs. Whether it was to consolidate his strength as soon as possible or to continue to seek the opportunity to break through to the next level, Lin Yi had to go outside. It was not his style to stay in one place for a long time for closed-door cultivation. But although it was a headache, Lin Yi didn't make things difficult for Lung Rufin. 3 months was 3 months, and he had to think of other ways to deal with the things after that. Thank you. Lung Rufin was both grateful and apologetic. Speaking of which, he was a little immoral in this matter, but he wouldn't change his mind. 3 months later, he had to go to the Mystic Sea region to settle things. Lin Yi smiled and didn't say anything. After sending Lung Rufin and Yang Qianxue off, and agreeing to meet up with Yang Qianxue after she took the beauty pill, Lin Yi, Ning Shuifei, and Qin Xingmo returned to the newcomers' courtyard. Only then did Lin Yi tell them everything. What? They're actually so bold. Qin Xingmo was instantly shocked. Ning Shuifei wasn't too worried, but the 3 of them discussed it. In the end, they still went to Qinjiao Academy and called Lu Ziyu and Hui Yudi over. Just half a day later, Lu Ziyu and Hua Yudi hurried over. This matter concerned Ning Xuefei's future safety, and they couldn't afford to be careless. The five of them sat in a circle around the table, all of them frowning. Even Lu Ziyu and Chun Xingma couldn't think of an effective way to deal with it. If they did something, it would be easy. As long as we have evidence, we can ask the academy to step in at any time. At the very least, we can put them under house arrest. But now we have no proof. Sigh. Chun Xingma sighed. Although she was the academy's vice dean, because of her personality, she wasn't a powerful person in the academy's upper echelon. In terms of status and authority, she was far inferior to Ren Tianxua. If she wanted to rely on a few words to warn Ren Zhongyuan and the others, it was almost impossible to have any effect. On the other hand, Lu Ziyu was a powerful person, but unfortunately, she was in Chunjiao Academy and had no reason to interfere with Soaring Cloud Academy's matters. Her authority in this matter was even lower than Chun Xingma's. Seeing that everyone was frowning, Ning Xuefei said, "Actually, it's not that serious. As long as I stay with Master, they won't be able to do anything to me. Those people can't be so daring as to play tricks in front of Master, right?" "That's true, but Fei, you can't be with Xingma all the time, right? You can be a thief for 1,000 days, but you can't guard against thieves for 1,000 days. As time goes on, someone will definitely catch you and take advantage of you." Lu Ziyu smiled bitterly and shook her head. "Then why don't I move over to accompany Fei?" Hua Yudi blinked and suggested. Everyone's eyes instantly lit up. Lu Ziyu couldn't just move over to protect Ning Xuefei, but Hua Yudi could. As long as Chun Xingma went to apply for a spot as an exchange disciple, she could stay here permanently. The two of them could be companions, and Hua Yudi's strength wasn't weak, so she could protect Ning Xuefei at her side. Chapter 48:06. Hua Yudi's strength wasn't weak, but Ren Zhongyuan and the others weren't easy to deal with either. If they really wanted to cause trouble, it was very likely that even Hua Yudi would be wiped out. Therefore, this could only be their last resort. If they wanted to truly protect Ning Xuefei, they had to find a bodyguard as intimidating as Lung Rufin. Unfortunately, in the entire Soaring Cloud Academy, there was only one Lung Rufin. Otherwise, if it was really so easy to find a few, Lung Rufin wouldn't be as terrifying as he was now. In the end, the crisis meeting couldn't come to a conclusion. But since she was already here, Hua Yudi couldn't bear to go back just like that. So she specifically stayed for a few more days. It was fine with Ning Xuefei, but she and Lin Yi didn't have many opportunities to see each other. After 3 days, Hua Yudi reluctantly left. If it wasn't for the fact that the Morning Pride Academy was about to have a disciple assessment, she wanted to stay until Lin Yi left. Unfortunately, things didn't go as she wished. After sending off Lu Ziyu and Hua Yudi, other than Chun Xingma, who came from time to time, the entire newcomer courtyard was only left with Lin Yi and Ning Xuefei. This was exactly what Ning Xuefei wanted. It was another rare time for the two of them. But before the two of them could start to flirt, a person suddenly came in. It was Lung Rufin. It wasn't known whether this guy was born like this or trained to be like this. From the first time Lin Yi saw him, he always had the same cold expression. It was very rare to see his face change, but this time, this guy actually had an indescribable worried expression. "What's wrong, Brother Lung?" Lin Yi's heart moved. For Lung Rufin to be so worried, it was most likely that something happened to young Qianxue. Lung Rufin looked at Lin Yi and sighed. Qianxue took the beauty pill, but it only had half of the effect. Only half of the effect. Lin Yi was stunned. The beauty pill was a 7th-rank medicinal pill. Normally, it should be easy to restore one's appearance. Could it be that there was a problem with the pill? It didn't seem like it. Back then, when he had obtained the beauty pill, he had personally checked it. The burns on Qianshue's face have healed, but the wounds that were invaded by the venom still haven't healed. It's all because of those damn bastards. Damn it! Lung Rufin's eyes spat out fire as he spoke. He heavily slammed his fist on the heavy stone table. His fist, which was not wrapped in any force, was immediately stained with blood. Venom. Lin Yi recalled what he had seen at that time. Although he had only taken a quick glance, the condition on Yang Qianshue's face was indeed shocking. It was much more serious than all the cases he had seen before. In particular, the wounds that had been soaked by the venom did not heal for a long time. It could be said that the venom had penetrated deep into the bone marrow. The beauty pill alone might not be effective. Lung Rufin immediately stopped talking. He sullenly sat on the ground in the yard, officially acting as Ning Shuefei's bodyguard. The beauty pill's failure to completely restore Yang Qianshue's appearance was his own fault. This could not be blamed on Lin Yi. Therefore, even though his heart was in a mess, he still had to fulfill the agreement. Seeing this, Lin Yi did not say anything. After saying goodbye to Ning Shuefei, he returned to the house. He had promised to give Lung Rufin a thunder profound pill. These 3 days, because he had been with Hui Yudi and Ning Shuefei, he did not have time to spare. Now that Lung Rufin was guarding him, he did not have to worry about Ning Shuefei's safety, so he could refine the pill in peace. 1 day later, when Lin Yi walked out of the door, he already had 8 more Thunder Profound pills on him. He did not use all the Thunder Profound vine at once. This time, he only used about a quarter of it. Anyway, the Thunder Profound vine was placed in the space of the jade pendant, and he often used the power of thunder to nourish it, so he did not have to worry about it withering. If there was no accident, these 8 Thunder Profound pills were already enough. After all, the Thunder Profound pill could only be used when attacking the Profound Ascension stage and dealing with the Thunder Tribulation. It was not like the Gathering Nascent Soul Golden pill, which could also be used as a supplement. Unless it was used as a gift, there was no need for so many. The remaining Thunder Profound vine could be used for other purposes. In addition to the Thunder Profound pill, as far as Lin Yi knew, it was also an important material for several other 7th grade, or even higher grade pills. Good steel should be used on the edge of the blade, so it would be of greater use when the time came. Brother Lung, this Thunder Profound pill can be given to you. Even if Miss Yang's appearance cannot be restored for a while, the matter of her strength realm cannot be delayed. Otherwise, when her realm completely falls, it will really be impossible for her to return to the Profound Ascension stage. Lin Yi advised. Thank you. Lung Rufin took the Thunder Profound pill with a complicated expression and shook his head with a bitter smile. I also advised her like this, but her appearance has become a problem for her. If this problem is not removed, and she rashly breaks through, I'm afraid it will become a demon in her heart. Then it will really be unimaginable. It was innate for women to love beauty. No woman would really not take their appearance seriously, especially a beauty like Yang Qianshue, who was disfigured to this extent. No one could bear such a big gap. It was already very rare for her to be able to hold on until now without a mental breakdown. During this time, you should spend more time with her. When Feifei has me here, there should be no problem. Lin Yi sighed. Lung Rufin nodded gratefully and immediately took the Thunder Profound pill to find Yang Qianshue. To be honest, he was really worried about Yang Qianshue's mental state. Before, he could pin all his hopes on the beauty pill, but now that the beauty pill was useless, it was hard to guarantee that she would not do something stupid after her hope was shattered. At times like this, what Yang Qianshue needed the most was Lung Rufin's company. In the following month, Lung Rufin did exactly that. In the face of Yang Qianshue's shocking disfigurement, he really didn't leave her. Every day, he racked his brains to comfort Yang Qianxue, constantly comforting her. He would definitely find a solution. In the next month, in addition to accompanying Yang Qianxue and Ning Xuefei, Long Rufin spent the rest of the time asking people for ideas. Even Lin Yi couldn't help but be moved. This cold knife god was really a person with a cold face but a warm heart. On this day, while Long Rufin was stationed in the newcomer's courtyard, he was writing letters to people. Needless to say, he was trying to find ways to ask people for help. Usually, asking for help was simply a whimsical thing, but for Yang Qianxue, he had thrown all his pride and self-esteem aside, just to find a glimmer of hope for his beloved woman. "Brother Lung, do you have time? I want to talk to you about something." Lin Yi suddenly said. "What is it?" Long Rufin was still writing rapidly and asked without raising his head. Chapter 4807. Qianxue. Long Rufin froze and dropped the pen. He looked up at Lin Yi nervously. Lin Yi was speechless. Love was the most mysterious thing in the world, after all. What had happened to the cold-faced knife god? This scene was like a primary school student caught cheating on a test. Not bad. I've seen it for a month. "Brother Lung, you're really infatuated with love. You can't go on like this. I can't bear it, so I'm going to make an exception and help Miss Yang recover her face." Lin Yi looked at Long Rufin. Long Rufin was shocked. He looked at Lin Yi from head to toe and said in disbelief, "You're not trying to stall for time, are you? Are you trying to find an excuse to look for herbs and make me protect Miss Ning? I don't even need to think to know what Ren Zhongyuan and the others are thinking. But I've said it before, I'm going to the Mystic Sea in 2 months, no matter what." "So you know that too?" Lin Yi couldn't help but be surprised. Long Rufin and Ren Zhongyuan had been enemies for many years. He knew them better than he did. He nodded immediately. "You're half right. I do want you to stay, but I want you to protect Fei for me. Sincerely. I'm not trying to stall you." Long Rufin was silent for a moment. His face was still full of doubt. Lin Yi was indeed a person that made him look at him in a different light, whether it was his amazing strength or his identity as a 7th-level alchemist. He was far from being a normal person. Even he couldn't compare to Lin Yi, but it was ridiculous to say that Lin Yi could help Qianxue recover her face. Even the beauty pill didn't work. What other way could he do? After asking around for a whole month, Long Rufin felt that the only reliable way was to find a medical saint like Zhang Liju. Other than that, he didn't believe in anything else. "How can I trust you?" Long Rufin asked with a tiny bit of hope. "I'll tell you a secret, but don't tell anyone else. It might bring me trouble," Lin Yi said seriously. "Tell me, I'm not a talkative person." Long Rufin's heart was filled with hope after seeing Lin Yi's serious face. Lin Yi smiled and said after a while, "All right, I'm actually Zhang Liju's last disciple." "What?" Long Rufin's face paled as he almost cried out in shock. He looked at Lin Yi from head to toe as he digested the shocking news. This guy was the disciple of Miracle Dr. Dan. Zhang Liju. This was something many people would do, especially Zhang Liju, who was one of the strongest in the 5 Sky class islands. Liju, there were many people who used his name, but under normal circumstances, no one would believe him. But after Long Yi, Long Rufin, and Lin Yi, Lin Rufin, it wasn't that he believed in Lin Yi's character. It was because all the signs from before were the best evidence. Putting aside Lin Yi's strength, this guy had been beaten up like a dead dog every day when they fought, and yet he was able to recover to his peak condition the next day. How was it possible that he didn't know anything about medicine? Plus, Lin Yi was a level 7 elixir refiner, without a master like Zhang Liju, who could teach such a young level 7 elixir refiner. All of this proved that Lin Yi was indeed Zhang Liju's last disciple. There was no exaggeration in this statement. You can really cure Qianxue? Lung Rufin was excited. He thought that Zhang Liju was the only one who could cure Yang Qianxue, but it wasn't easy to meet someone like Zhang Liju. He might not get the chance, even if he searched for 10 or 20 years. Now, he suddenly found Zhang Liju's last disciple. It was like a gift to him. Yes, I've thought about it. Although it's hard, and I need to pay a big price, the chance of success is not small. Linny nodded. The reason why he purposely used Zhang Liju's name was to find a convincing excuse for his all-purpose pure energy. After all, Lung Rufin wasn't really on his side yet. What if the news got out after he cured Yang Qianxue? In this world, only by using the name of a tiger could he quickly gain the respect and trust of others. This was something Lin Yi realized in the last West Island trial. As soon as he brought up the name of Shanghai Tianhua's personal disciple, people like Ren Zhongyuan would immediately look up to him. Now, from Lung Rufin's performance, it seemed that the title of Zhang Liju's last disciple was also very useful. Of course, Lin Yi wasn't the kind of person to brag. He really was Zhang Liju's disciple. It was just that he hadn't met this cheap master yet, so he couldn't officially register. If that's the case, I'll go get Qianxue. I'll leave everything to you, Brother Lin. Lung Rufin was so excited that he used his strongest movement technique on the spot. He turned into an icicle and disappeared, leaving only a pile of ice shards on the ground. Linny paused. When he fought with Lung Rufin before, he didn't use this move. It seemed like he wasn't using his full strength. Of course, in front of his continuous energy consumption, Lung Rufin couldn't maintain his peak condition at all. He had to make sure that every bit of qi was used on the blade to keep the stalemate going. As for this kind of movement technique that used up a lot of qi, but couldn't decide the outcome of the battle, naturally, it was best not to use it. After a while, Lung Rufin excitedly brought Yang Qianxue over. These days, Yang Qianxue was a little dispirited, but her eyes were very bright when she looked at Lin Yi. Evidently, she already knew that Lin Yi was Zhang Liju's last disciple. She saw hope in the midst of despair. Fei Fei, you and Lung Bro stay outside. It shouldn't be too long. Lin Yi instructed and immediately brought Yang Qianxue into the room. After entering the room and sitting down, Lin Yi signaled for Yang Qianxue to take off her veil. Yang Qianxue struggled and hesitated, but under Lin Yi's encouraging gaze, she finally took off her veil with difficulty. In the past, she would lose control every time she took off her veil, but after so long, she could barely control her emotions. Chapter 48:08. Don't be nervous. Give me your hands. Linny smiled. Oh. Yang Qianxue looked at him in confusion, but in the end, she still extended her hands. Unlike her ferocious and terrifying face, her hands could be said to be like ice and jade, full of fairy-like aura. Lin Yi also extended his hands to meet hers. The touch was cool, but refreshing. She was indeed a rare beauty, but he didn't want to take advantage of her. If he wanted to treat her, he had to channel all-purpose true qi. This process couldn't be obstructed by clothes. There was no other way but to meet her palms. After all, he couldn't let Yang Qianxue take off her clothes in front of him. Through her palm, Yang Qianxue suddenly felt a warm stream of spiritual qi enter her body and rise to her face along her 8 extraordinary meridians. Her face suddenly felt a little itchy and a little numb. She couldn't help but want to scratch it, but she resisted the urge. After going on like this for about an hour, Yang Qianxue suddenly felt that something seemed to be flowing down her face. When she took a closer look, it was actually dark green venom. She was instantly shocked. Don't move. It'll be over soon. Lin Yi comforted her. Yang Qianxue was still a little panicked, but she didn't move after hearing this. She just watched as the horrifying venom flowed down her face bit by bit until it fell on the floor. The venom accumulated bit by bit. Yang Qianxue couldn't help but tremble. This was a nightmare she had every time she closed her eyes. It was the venom that almost broke her mind. She was muddle-headed all day, and sometimes she even wanted to die. Another hour passed, and finally no more venom flowed down from her face. Yang Qianxue only felt that her face was getting more and more itchy. She suddenly had an epiphany, and she became excited. Could this be a sign that her wounds were healing? After a slightly long wait, Lin Yi finally withdrew his true qi from Yang Qianxue's body. He turned around and took out a mirror and handed it to her. Take a look for yourself. Yang Qianxue took the mirror with trepidation. She didn't dare to open her eyes. She had experienced it once a month ago. She didn't want to go through it again. The feeling of having one's last hope shattered could really make people break down. But in the end, she still opened her eyes with great difficulty. When she saw the face in the mirror that seemed to have been reborn, she immediately froze. How is it? Seeing Lin Yi walk out with a pale face, Lang Rufeng, who had been guarding the door like a headless fly for 4 hours, quickly went up to greet him. His usually expressionless face was now filled with anxiety and nervousness. See for yourself. Lin Yi waved his hand weakly. Actually, this was all an act for the other party to see. With the jade pendant to replenish his true qi at any time, he did not expend much energy at all. But since he was putting on a show, he had to go all the way. Even if he said that he was Zhang Liju's disciple, this wasn't something that could be done easily. He had to pretend that there was a price to pay. Seeing Lin Yi's expression that looked like he was about to faint at any time, Lang Rufen's expression suddenly changed. He thought that the treatment had failed, so he hurriedly shouted for Qianxue to rush into the room. However, before he could enter the room, Yang Qianxue had already walked out first. Qianxue, you? Lang Rufen was stunned. He stared blankly at Yang Qianxue's beautiful face, and his expression instantly turned into indescribable joy. Qianxue, you're okay? Seeing the cold blade god jumping around like a child, Lin Yi and Ning Xuefei couldn't help but smile at each other. Yang Qianxue, on the other hand, was moved to tears. She walked up and hugged Lang Rufen tightly. A hug was better than 1,000 words. This was the darkest period of Yang Qianxue's life. She had lost too much, and even wanted to end it countless times. But compared to what she had lost, what she had gained was actually more valuable. A friend in need is a friend indeed. She had found a man who was truly worthy of her life. Are you okay? Ning Xuefei's eyes were red from the scene in front of her, but she was still more worried about Lin Yi's condition. Lin Yi's pale face not only fooled Lang Rufen, but also her. I'm fine. Lin Yi smiled slightly. He gently hugged Ning Xuefei. To be honest, looking at Lang Rufen and Yang Qianxue was quite touching. He couldn't help but think of his group of female friends. Compared to Lang Rufen, who had always been by Yang Qianxue's side, he was far inferior in this aspect. At this time, Lang Rufen suddenly let go of Yang Qianxue, walked a few steps in front of Lin Yi, and directly knelt down in front of everyone's surprised eyes. This time, not only Lin Yi and Ning Xuefei, but even Yang Qianxue was shocked. Lang Rufen's pride was deeply rooted in his bones. Except for his master, no one in the world could make him kneel, no matter how strong or how high his status was. But today, he chose to kneel down in front of Lin Yi. Brother Lang, what are you doing? Lin Yi hurriedly reached out to help him up. He cured Yang Qianxue in order to let him stay to protect Ning Xuefei, not to make him kneel down in front of him. However, Lang Rufen pushed Lin Yi's hand away and said solemnly, Lang Rufen, have never admired anyone in my life, but I admire you, Brother Lin. Although your realm is lower than mine, your strength is much stronger than mine. I have never seen a genius like you. I can't repay your kindness. From now on, you are my boss, and Miss Ning is my sister-in-law. Don't worry, before Miss Ning leaves Shangyun Academy, I will always stay here. Lung Rufin had never been a person who was good with words. His words could be said to be abrupt, but everyone present knew that his words were absolutely sincere. This guy was cold on the outside, but warm on the inside. Most of the time, he seemed to be unapproachable and difficult to get along with, but in fact, after getting along with him for a long time, people would know that he was a sincere person. The strong were respected. These 4 words were absolutely deeply rooted in people's hearts on the Heaven Stage Island. Even a man as arrogant as Lung Rufin regarded this as a golden rule. No matter from which aspect, Lin Yi would undoubtedly be a rare, super strong person in the world. At least, he absolutely had the potential. As for the realm of strength, with his super strong potential, it was only a matter of time before Lin Yi reached the Xianxing realm or even the mountain opening realm. For a discerning person like Lung Rufin, this was not a problem at all. In addition, Lin Yi had shown his tolerance and character during this period of time, so Lung Rufin was really convinced. Chapter 48:09. If Yang Qianxue, who was equally powerful, was included, it was simply a buy one get one free. He suddenly had a pair of powerful husband and wife subordinates. This was really a rare surprise. Boss, since I have already recognized you as my boss, then there should be a difference in seniority. Don't call me Brother Lung, just call me by my name. Lung Rufin said seriously, Hee. Okay, then I will call you Rufeng. Linny smiled. Although this guy's face was cold, and his words were cold, he unexpectedly paid attention to the rules in this kind of thing. Lin Yi then asked, Rufeng, didn't you say that you must go to the Xuanjie Sea to settle things? Why did you suddenly change your mind? That's what I thought before, but at that time, I was just like Qianxue. I was driven by the desire for revenge and lost all rationality. But now I've thought it through. Instead of rushing to my death again, I might as well stay here and complete the task boss entrusted me with. I might as well find a way to improve my strength, Lung Rufin explained. At the same time, Lung Rufin and Yang Qianxue looked at each other and smiled. The reason why he could let go of this obsession was obviously because Yang Qianxue had recovered. He couldn't bring his beloved, who had finally regained a new life, to die. Well, now that Miss Yang's heart has been removed, the top priority is to return to the Xuanjie stage as soon as possible, and after that, you also need to cultivate for a period of time, including Rufeng. Lin Yi suggested. After fighting for half a month, he was very familiar with Lung Rufin. During that time, this guy's breathing was obviously unstable, which was also why Lin Yi continued to consume his energy. Otherwise, it would be a different result. In the following month, because of Yang Qianxue's matter, Lung Rufin didn't have time to recuperate and cultivate, so until now, he hadn't been able to fully recover. Fortunately, Yang Qianxue had recovered and was now working as Ning Xuefei's bodyguard. He finally had time to recuperate and cultivate. Boss, don't worry, I know what to do. Lung Rufin nodded. Right, I've wanted to ask this question for a long time. Is the profound step C really so dangerous? Linny suddenly asked. Lung Rufin's strength didn't need to be mentioned. He could easily suppress Lin Yi even before he recovered, and if Yang Qianxue recovered to the profound ascension stage, her strength would definitely not be weak. Such a powerful combination was actually beaten so miserably, it was really a bit frightening. Lung Rufin and Yang Qianxue looked at each other and smiled bitterly. The atmosphere couldn't help but become slightly heavy when he recalled that encounter. and he went silent for a moment before he said slowly, "Boss, don't be fooled by the various Yellow Order academies in the East Continent that are filled with both open and veiled strife and are filled with danger. But when compared to the profound rank oceanic domain, all of this pales in comparison. That's a place that truly devours people." "Really?" Lin erased his brows slightly. After staying here for a month and a half, he could not help but feel that the East Continent Academy was just SOSO. Except for Long Ruffin, none of the other disciples of Soaring Cloud Academy could catch his attention. However, after listening to Long Ruffin's words, Lin suddenly changed his mind. It seemed that if there was a chance, he really had to go to the profound rank oceanic domain to have a good look. Long Ruffin surrendered to Lin Yi, and the grim machete god officially became the trump card of the West Island's Fuma. No one knew who spread the news, but it spread like wildfire. Soon, it caused a sensation in the entire Soaring Cloud Academy. Although Long Ruffin suffered a big loss in the profound rank oceanic domain, he was still a leading figure among the disciples of Soaring Cloud Academy. Everyone knew that this guy was full of pride. Now, he was willing to become someone else's subordinate, and the opponent was a master of the nascent soul stage who was a whole realm lower than him. This was simply incredible. Others were just talking about it as a piece of news, but when Ren Zhongyuan heard about it, he directly blacked out and fell down on the spot. When he woke up, it was already 2 days later. His whole body was weak, and it turned out that he was seriously ill. The murderous spirit of the 5 elements in his body was much more difficult to deal with than he had imagined. Even Ren Tiansuo had not been able to resolve it completely. During this period of time, he had been depressed, and he suddenly became angry, so he really deserved to be seriously ill. When Yi Xiaotian came to visit Ren Zhongyuan, he was shocked to see how weak Ren Zhongyuan was. Fortunately, Ren Tiansuo was there. Otherwise, given Ren Zhongyuan's current state, once his condition worsened, the consequences would be unpredictable. He thought that Ren Zhongyuan was just ill because of anger. He really didn't expect that a person who was originally a good person could be so angry that he was half dead. It turned out that there were really people in this world who could be angered to death. "I'm not willing. I'm not willing." Even though he was so weak, Ren Zhongyuan still couldn't forget Lin Yi. He had no strength to gnash his teeth, but the resentment in his eyes became more and more terrible. But even if he was not willing, what could he do? Now that Long Ruffin had completely turned to Lin Yi with such a powerful underling guarding them, their previous plan had completely become a bubble. After all, since he was an underling, how could he leave his boss's woman behind? Not only was Long Ruffin's strength so strong that it made others feel helpless, more importantly, Long Ruffin knew them inside out. Even the slightest movement could not escape his eyes. Ren Zhongyuan and the others were helpless against him. So what could they do? What made Ren Zhongyuan even more helpless was that even though he was seriously ill, his father, Ren Tiansuo, still had no intention of standing up for him. Instead, he ordered him to recuperate and even grounded him. This was what made Ren Zhongyuan the most depressed. Otherwise, if his father was willing to help, Long Ruffin would be nothing. In the face of this result, Yi Xiaotian was also very speechless. If he was seriously ill, the old man would have already taken a knife and risked his life. How could he be as calm as Ren Tiansuo? He was worthy of being the second senior in the academy, to be able to become the chief alchemist. His shrewdness was really not something that ordinary people could estimate. The two looked at each other for a long time. Seeing that Ren Zhongyuan was so depressed that he was about to vomit blood, Yi Xiaotian suddenly said, "Actually, we have another way, but it depends on whether Brother Ren dares to do it or not." "Say it." Ren Zhongyuan glared and said, "I'm already so sick. What else do I not dare to do?" As long as I can kill Lin Yi, I dare to do anything. Hee hee, my method can be described in 4 words: kill with a borrowed knife. Yi Xiaotian smiled coldly. This Shishan Almighty is looking for a way to get close to the Shishan old sect, so when he heard about Lin Yi's matter, he became excited. Otherwise, he really wouldn't have been able to invite him. Yi Xiaotian rejoiced. Good, good, good. With this West Mountain powerhouse personally taking action, Lin Yi is already a dead man. Ren Zhongyuan laughed and immediately climbed down from the bed. He didn't even care about his father's confinement order. He pulled Yi Xiaotian and said, let's go for a drink. We have to celebrate this. Ren Zhongyuan was actively plotting again, but Lin Yi was completely unaware of it, now that he had Long Rufin and Yang Qianxue to protect him, and with the help of Chen Xingma and Lu Ziyu, Ning Xuefei's safety was no longer a concern. He could finally do some things he wanted to do, and Lin Yi's first plan was naturally to go to the Morning Star Academy. Although he didn't need to worry about Wang Xinyan and Huang Xiaotao's situation, since it was rare for him to come to the East Continent, he naturally had to go and have a good gathering with them. Although they were both in the Yellow Tier Sea region, this was the East Continent. Just the Yellow Tier Sea region alone was already bigger than all of the South Continent's sea regions combined. So the Morning Star Academy wasn't near here, but fortunately, it wasn't too far. After getting the map from Chen Xingma and studying it carefully, Lin Yi found that even if he didn't use flying spirit beasts, it would only take a few days to get to the Morning Star Academy. Of course, this was based on his own speed. If it was an ordinary nascent soul stage expert, they would have to walk for a month. After all, ordinary people wouldn't be so extravagant as to use martial arts to hurry on the road. Only fools would do so. After settling everything, he specially sent a message to Lu Ziyu and Hu Yudi. After everyone had a meal together, Lin Yi bid farewell to everyone and set off. In these 2 months in the Soaring Cloud Academy, Lin Yi had specially asked Hu Yudi to return to the Morning Pride Academy to investigate something that he was very concerned about. It was the girl from the secular world who had offended Yao Jieli, but was secretly released by Hu Yudi. What was the identity of this girl from the secular world? Was she one of his close female friends? Lin Yi had always been anxious to know the results. However, even though Hu Yudi had spent a lot of effort to investigate, and even Lu Ziyu had come forward to help, they still hadn't found any concrete results. Even the information on the secular world girl from the Morning Pride Academy was very little. Ever since she disappeared, it was as if she had evaporated from the face of the earth. All they knew was that the girl's alias was Little Nian. With regards to this result, Lin Yi felt very helpless. If he only knew that it was an alias, he had no way of confirming who the girl was. After all, coming to a completely unfamiliar place like this, anyone could use an alias. Although he felt helpless, Lin Yi couldn't continue wasting time on this matter. After all, the girl had already disappeared, and there was no point in continuing to stay. It would be better to go to the Morning Star Academy to see Wang Xinyan and Huang Xiaotao. As for the matter of the secular world girl, he could only find out when he had the chance. Ning Xuefei and the others sent him to the academy gates. Just as Lin Yi was about to wave goodbye, a man suddenly walked towards Lin Yi. It seemed like he had been waiting at the gates for a long time. Stop! Without waiting for the man to get close to Lin Yi, Long Rufin suddenly blocked his way. He now considered himself to be Lin Yi's little brother, so naturally he wouldn't let anyone disturb Lin Yi. The man was instantly shocked. With Long Rufin's strength, even if he didn't release his aura, that kind of pressure was not something an ordinary person could withstand. This guy took a few steps back and almost tripped over himself. He seemed to want to say something, but with a glance from Long Rufin, he immediately shut up. Lin Yi glanced at him and didn't say anything, but he couldn't help but laugh in his heart. This guy Lung Rufin's deterrence was too ridiculous. He really hadn't taken this little brother for nothing. He was the most suitable bodyguard. Chapter 48:11. Lung Rufin frowned, but he didn't move away. He looked at him coldly and said, "What do you want?" Can I talk to Linny face to face? I want to ask him for a small favor. Lung bro." The man stuck his head out and looked at Lin Yi. Just when Lung Rufin was about to chase him away, Lin Yi suddenly said, "Forget it, Rufin, let him come." Thank you, thank you." The man quickly walked over and bowed to Lin Yi. "Brother Lin, I am Jiang Hai. I heard that you are going to the Morning Star Academy, so I came to ask for a favor." "Oh, Brother Jiang, if you have something to say, just say it." Lin Yi looked at him in surprise. This man was only at the early nascent soul stage, but he knew that Lin Yi was going to the Morning Star Academy. He was quite well informed. Lin Yi didn't tell anyone about this. He only asked Chen Xingma to help him find a map. "It's like this. I have a fiancée named Qinyu. She is also in the Morning Star Academy. We haven't seen each other for 10 years, so I want to ask Brother Lin to bring her a medicinal pill as a token of my sincerity. I will be very grateful." Jiang Hai sincerely asked. 10 years? Then why don't you go see her yourself? Although the Morning Star Academy is far away, it shouldn't be that hard to go there, right? Lin Yi and the others looked at each other. "To be honest, it's not that I don't want to go, but I can't." Jiang Hai shook his head and sighed. "Brother Lin, you don't know this, but the disciples of the Golden Step Academy are not allowed to go to other academies without permission. Those who can get the quota are either inner disciples or peak nascent soul cultivators. I am not qualified at all." "There is such a thing?" Lin Yi looked at Jiang Hai and shook his head. In his opinion, Hui Yudi easily came to the Soaring Cloud Academy. He didn't expect that there would be so many difficulties. Yeah, only someone with Big Brother Lin's status and strength can roam the Golden Sea region. As for me, Jiang Hai smiled awkwardly and said with a gloomy expression, "My fiancée Qinyu and I were born into a poor family, and we don't have any connections in the academy. I think she should still be at the gold core stage like 10 years ago. So, all right, since you're so devoted to her, I'll help you." Lin Yi nodded. This man's persistence reminded him of himself. Didn't he come all the way here to find a way to wake Miss? And you xiaoka up? "Thank you, Big Brother Lin." Jiang Hai was overjoyed. He quickly took out the elixirs he had prepared and handed them to Lin Yi. Nascent Soul Golden Core. Lin Yi recognized it at a glance and couldn't help but look at Jiang Hai in a higher light. This condensed nascent golden pill was a rare treasure for ordinary nascent soul experts, especially when he was only at the early nascent soul stage. He actually asked a complete stranger to help him carry the condensed nascent golden pill. His courage was not small. "Hee, aren't you afraid that I'll embezzle it?" Lin Yi said deliberately. Jiang Hai couldn't meet Qinyu, so even if he embezzled the pill, no one would be able to prove it. "Big Brother Lin, you must be joking. You're the prince consort of the West Island, and you can casually take out a 7th grade elixir as a gift. This 6th grade condensed nascent golden pill is probably not enough for you, right? Besides, you're a trustworthy person, so I dare to ask for it." Jiang Hai said, "Seriously, it seems like you know a lot about me. You're very well informed." Lin Yi smiled slightly. "You flatter me. My strength is too low, so I can't be your and Miss Ning's bodyguard like Big Brother Lung. However, I've been in this academy for 10 years, and with this experience, I can be considered to have a wide network of people and eyes. I can't help much, but if Rinzhong Yuan and the others do anything strange, I can inform Big Brother Lung immediately. Jiang Hahai recommended himself. All right, then I'll have to trouble you. Linny nodded. With Jiang Hahai's information and Lung Rufin's protection, Ning Shuefei would be a double layer of insurance. Nothing would go wrong, so he could be completely at ease. This is what I should do. Jiang Hahai looked delighted. Not only was he returning the favor, but he could also use this opportunity to build a relationship with a strong person like Lin Yi, which was also very beneficial for him. Then, he deliberately lowered his voice and said, "By the way, Yi Xiaotian sneakily went on a long trip a few days ago. I don't know what he went to, but the first thing he did when he returned was a party with Ren Zhongyuan to celebrate. I think there might be something fishy about this, so you should be careful, Big Brother Lin." Yi Xiaotian? All right, thank you. Let's part ways here, and we'll meet again. With that, Lin Yi promptly bid farewell to everyone. Both Hui Yudi and Ning Shuefei were reluctant to part. Although they were mentally prepared for this, they still could not help but want to cry when it really came time to say goodbye. Lin Yi repeatedly promised that they would meet again soon. And only then did the two girls finally stop crying and smile, each giving him a hug before they were willing to let him go. Even after Lin Yi's figure disappeared beyond the academy gates, the two girls still refused to turn back for a long time. Lu Ziyu and Chen Xingma then tried their best to comfort them, and the two girls finally got rid of their husband-gazing stone state. From then on, Hui Yudi did not return to the Morning Pride Academy. Since the disciple assessment was over, she simply asked Chen Xingma to get her a spot as an exchange disciple so that she could stay behind to keep Ning Shuefei company. Ning Shuefei naturally could not ask for more, although she also had Long Rufin and Yang Qianxue by her side to protect her. Hui Yudi was her true sister after all. There were many private words that could only be said to Hui Yudi, and it was not suitable for outsiders to know. After coming out of the Soaring Cloud Academy, Lin Yi immediately activated the Super Butterfly Microstep and hurried on his way. He did not feel it before, but at this moment, when he thought that he would be able to see Wang Xinyan and Huang Xiaotao very soon, his heart became even more impatient, and he did not want to delay even a moment. However, after only a little less than half a day, Lin Yi suddenly stopped his pace and changed his route to a small town nearby. He found an inn to stay in, because it was not too far from the Soaring Cloud Academy and the Morning Pride Academy. This small town was marked on the map as being within the sphere of influence of the two academies and could be considered as a small town affiliated to the academies. Chapter 48:12. The town where Lin Yi was located was on the edge of Soaring Cloud City. It was a new area that had only been developed in recent years. Its scale was naturally incomparable to that of the main city. However, although it was small, it had everything. Not only did this place have everything, but it was also a well-known gray area. The supervision was far less strict than that of the main city. All kinds of people gathered in this place. The reason why Lin Yi suddenly changed his mind and came here was very simple. He found that someone was following him, and this person did not follow him for a short distance. He had been following him all the way from Soaring Cloud Academy. With the speed of Lin Yi's Super Butterfly Microsteps, the person who could follow him so easily must at least be a master of the mysterious ascending stage. In particular, Lin Yi's divine sense could only detect it, but could not lock on the other party. He had to be careful. At least, he could be sure that the guy following him was definitely not a good person. Lin Yi's guess was right. The person following him was indeed not an ordinary person. It was the powerful figure of Shishan that Ren Zhongyuan and Yi Xiaotian had deliberately invited. After he found Lin Yi at the gate of the academy, he immediately followed him, but he did not choose to make a move. It was not that he did not want to, but he did not dare to. Unless he could ensure that there was no one around, he would not dare to make a move. After all, this was still within the sphere of influence of the academy. Evil cultivators like him were like street rats. Once they showed up, they would inevitably be attacked by others. Although he was a master of the mysterious ascending stage, it was a pity that he was really nothing in the East Continent. Any big shot of the academy could easily kill him. The powerful figure of Shishan originally planned to make a move after he left the sphere of influence of the academy. No one in the cultivation world would meddle in other people's business. It was the same in the East Continent. As long as he did not act wildly in the sphere of influence, even if they knew that he was an evil cultivator, the masters of the academy would only turn a blind eye to him. Sometimes they would even cooperate with him, just like Ren Zhongyuan and Yi Xiaotian, who knew that Lin Yi would suddenly change his route and enter a small town. The mighty figure of West Mountain could only disguise himself as an ordinary person and stay in the inn with them. Fortunately, this was not a strictly monitored main city, or else he might not have dared to follow them in. After all, there were all sorts of people in a small town. As long as he did not openly reveal his identity as an evil cultivator, it would not be a big problem. For the next 2 days, Lin Yi did not follow his original plan to rush to the Morning Star Academy, but instead strolled around the town. After strolling around for 2 whole days, he finally locked onto the stalker, who was staying in the same inn as him. It was a profound, ascended late-stage expert. Lin Yi could not help but be secretly speechless. This guy was really not simple. He was obviously only separated by a layer of wood, but with his insight, it took him such a long time to find him. His concealment skills were really first class. But what puzzled him was, why would such a profound ascension late-stage expert follow him for no reason? From the looks of it, they didn't come with good intentions. Could it be that Yi Xiaotian invited them to deal with him? But it had been 2 whole days. Why was this guy still holding back and not making a move? Was he afraid that there would be too many people in this place? Just as Lin Yi was muttering to himself, the ghost's laughter suddenly sounded in his mind. "Kid, why is it that the stronger you get, the more timid you become? What's there to make a fuss about? It's just a profound ascended stage, trash evil cultivator. Just trick him to a place where no one is around and kill him. Why are you so hesitant? This guy is an evil cultivator. No wonder he doesn't dare to make a move in public." Lin Yi was stunned when he heard this. Then he smiled bitterly and shook his head. "Senior, you say it so easily. Even if he is an evil cultivator, he is still a profound ascended late-stage expert. It's not certain who will kill who." If it was in the past, with Lin Yi's current nascent soul late-stage strength, he really might not put the profound ascended late-stage in his eyes. After all, he was used to it. When he killed many profound ascended stage experts, he naturally didn't feel that it was a big deal. However, the appearance of Lung Rufin completely reversed his perception. After all, the profound ascended stage experts were not cabbages. With his current strength, even if he could kill an ordinary profound ascended stage expert in seconds, if he met a real strong person, the consequences would be unpredictable. One must know that just a profound ascended early stage expert like Lung Rufin could already suppress him. Once he really met a difficult profound ascended late stage expert, even Lin Yi could only be hunted down. Profound ascended late stage also depends on who it is. If it's Lung Rufin in the profound ascended late stage, I will definitely advise you to run away. But now this trash evil cultivator, that is, Lung Rufin, was in the state where you spent 5 days in a row. Don't tell me you can't even kill him like that. The ghost curled its lips. If that's the case, then that's great. I was just worried that there was no one to feed me. This guy came at the right time. Lin Yi was immediately happy when he heard this. Ever since he fought with Lung Rufin for half a month, he had already tasted the sweetness of fighting. When he had nothing to do, he wanted to find Lung Rufin to spar. This time, before he set off, he specially sparred several times. Unfortunately, Lung Rufin's state had recovered, but he obviously didn't dare to use his full strength. This guy attached great importance to his status. Facing his boss, Lin Yi, he didn't dare to fight at all. What if he couldn't control himself and seriously injured Lin Yi or even directly killed him? Lin Yi tried a lot of ways to persuade him, but Lung Rufin just couldn't let go. Several times, he could only stop at a certain point, causing Lin Yi's interest to wane. But now it's good. A profound ascended late-stage expert came to his door. This evil cultivator was not big nor small, just right to be a sparring partner. Lin Yi didn't act rashly after locking onto the Shishan master's position. He waited until midnight before leaving without a sound. If it was someone else, Lin Yi would have been able to avoid detection 99% of the time, but the Shishan master sensed it right away. In order to use Lin Yi's head to pave the road of advancement, the Shishan expert really put in a lot of effort this time. Almost all the time, he was paying attention to Lin Yi's position, waiting for the last opportunity to make a move. And now he finally waited for it. The Shishan expert suddenly revealed a sinister sneer and chased after him. Previously, he had been inexplicably circling around here for 2 days. Even a fool knew that Lin Yi must have noticed that something was wrong, but this kid actually thought that he could slip away under his nose in the dark. He was simply too naive. Locking onto Lin Yi's aura from afar, the Shishan expert was not in a hurry to make a move. Even if it was now night, to be safe, he had to wait until he was out of the school's sphere of influence. Haste makes waste, and he couldn't act rashly and ruin the big plan. Lin Yi was still using the super butterfly microstep to hurry on his way. This speed was already extremely fast, and with the cover of the night, he was like a ghost. Ordinary people couldn't even see him clearly, let alone follow him from afar. Chapter 48:13. In terms of movement techniques, evil cultivators who pursued the extreme by any means necessary were the real ghosts, especially when Shishan was an evil cultivator who was good at movement techniques. Not to mention a nascent soul stage master. Even a profound ascending stage master of the same level wouldn't be able to get rid of him easily. The two chased after each other for an entire night, and by the time the sun was up, Lin Yi was in the middle of an endless forest. There were no villages in front of him, no shops behind him, and he was far away from the school's territory. Shishan looked at the surrounding environment and sneered silently. He thought that this kid would sneak into the main city. If that was the case, he would really have to go through a lot of trouble. But now, this kid had found a good place to bury himself, which saved him a lot of trouble. There wasn't even a ghost in a 100-mile radius. No matter how big the commotion was, no one would come to get in the way. He really didn't know whether to say that this kid was stupid or to praise him for being tactful. Just as Shishan was about to make a move, Lin Yi suddenly stopped in front of him. This startled Shishan. He couldn't help but be a little suspicious. What did this kid want to do? This place is almost there. Although the feng shui isn't very good, it's more than enough to bury a follower. Come out. Lin Yi said lightly. The mighty figure of the West Mountain was stunned. He had been very careful along the way. In order to avoid alerting the enemy, he had been hanging several kilometers away. He had also carefully concealed his aura. How could this kid have discovered him? Impossible. This brat is definitely bluffing, trying his luck to trick me out. Shishan originally planned to make a move, but now he changed his mind. With the mentality of a cat playing with a mouse, he wanted to see how long Lin Yi could play this one-man show. He, still hiding and not wanting to come out. Are you deceiving yourself? Lin Yi grinned and then unreservedly revealed the strength of the late nascent soul stage. He said lightly, "Hurry up and come out and fight with me. I think our strength is about the same. Don't dawdle, let's fight. You've been hiding for a few days. Are all evil cultivators like you?" Hearing this, Shishan knew that he had indeed been discovered. However, he couldn't help but feel astonished. He had concealed his aura so well. So how did this brat find out that he was a heretical cultivator? Suppressing the doubts in his heart, Shishan Almighty immediately appeared without hesitation, releasing a powerful aura, and sneered, Boy, did you see wrongly? This old man is at the late stage of profound ascension, and you are just at the late stage of yuaniing. How can our strength be the same? There's a huge difference. You'll only know how weak you are when you fight. Don't talk so much nonsense. My hands have been itching for a long time. He cracked his knuckles as he spoke. He'd thought that the guy would have made his move a long time ago, but he didn't think that the guy would have dragged it out like a tortoise. He had to admit that the tortoise was pretty fast. Itchy hands. This old man thinks that your skin is itching for death. Reckless dog, you actually dare to provoke our Western Mountain Old sect. Today, I, the Western Mountain Almighty, will take your head to congratulate the old sect. The Western Mountain Almighty mocked. West Mountain Old Master, you are also from the West Mountain Evil sect. He couldn't help but be stunned. He only heard that the ghost said that he was a heretical cultivator, but he didn't expect to encounter the West Mountain Evil sect even in the East Continent. It was really a small world for enemies. He thought that this guy was simply an assassin that Ren Zhongyuan and the others found to deal with him. You're lucky that you can survive until now after provoking our West Mountain Old Master. But today, your luck has come to an end. Die, the Western Mountain Almighty said as he stretched out his claws in the direction of Lin Yi. Lin Yi suddenly felt an incomparably terrifying suction force in front of him. It was actually trying to suck him over. This was not a simple telekinesis. If he hadn't been on guard in advance to protect his body with true qi, all the meridians and blood vessels in his body would have burst, and his whole body might have directly turned into a cloud of blood mist. A heretical cultivator was indeed a heretical cultivator. Just a casual attack was such an extremely sinister move. With a thought, Lin Yi suddenly gave up resisting, and his whole body was instantly sucked over. Seeing this, the Western Mountain Almighty was overjoyed. You guys who claim to be from the righteous sects just love to brag. What *T about fighting an enemy with a higher realm? That's all there is to it. This move of his was called Opening Claw. As the name suggested, once one was hit by his claw, one's stomach would immediately be cut open. Even if one's true qi protected one's body, it would be useless because the true qi protection would be instantly pierced by the tip of his claw. As for the remaining flesh and blood, there was no need to even mention it. The distance between them quickly closed, and just when it looked like he was about to be hit, not only did Lin Yi not think of a way to slow down, but he suddenly shot true qi from his back to push the boat with the current. His speed suddenly increased by a lot, and his whole body suddenly attacked the Western Mountain Almighty like a cannonball. Seeing this, the Western Mountain Almighty was shocked. By the time he reacted, Lin Yi was already in front of him. Both of his palms were surging with fiery will, and it was completely red with the profound state of yin and yang 8 trigrams. How dare you? What a reckless junior. Seeing this, the Western Mountain Almighty was furious. A mere nascent soul late stage dared to do this. It was clear that he did not put him in his eyes. His opening claw, which could suck people through the air, was indeed full of flaws in the eyes of many masters. Just like now, it was easy for others to borrow strength to fight back. Unfortunately, these people had forgotten that he was a profound ascension late-stage master. How could an existence at his level be so easily full of flaws? When a flaw was particularly obvious, it was very likely to be a deliberate trap. Those masters who saw this move and felt that they could take advantage of it, when they borrowed strength to fight back and hitched a ride on the powerful suction, the final result was unbearable to look at without exception. And now, under his opening claw, there was going to be another dead soul. On the surface, the Western Mountain Almighty pretended to be shocked and angry, but in his heart, he was about to burst into laughter. How could such a stupid thing escape from the hands of the old sect? His dog-shit luck was against the heavens. In the blink of an eye, the two had already met face to face. The 5 fingertips of the Western Mountain Almighty were emitting a terrible and terrifying black gas. Without dodging, he directly grabbed at Lin Yi's frenzied fire 8 trigrams palm. In the eyes of many people, they thought that the most terrifying part of the opening claw was the powerful suction force of the exploding blood vessels. As long as one could withstand this force, one could easily deal with it. After all, the claw itself did not have any terrifying power to speak of. In fact, it was the opposite. The suction force was just a cover. The real terrifying part of this move was still the opening claw. The more ugly something was, the more deadly it was. Chapter 48:14. Fortunately, Lin Yi's reaction was fast enough. At the critical moment, he directly used the extreme butterfly steps. That was how he was able to barely avoid the dangerous claws of the opponent and avoid being killed in one hit. Hee, my claws are invincible. I can even break divine weapons. You're just a late-stage, original-level cultivator, and you dare to compete with me? You have no self-awareness at all. How stupid! The mighty figure laughed proudly. He can even break divine weapons? Lin erased his eyebrows slightly when he heard this. He thought to himself, don't brag without a draft. If it weren't for the fact that his weapon couldn't be formed at the last step, he would definitely show this guy what he said today. I threw a lot of rare materials into it. If it can still be broken with bare hands, then I really don't need to live anymore. There's no need for divine weapons. Break this move of mine first. Before Lin Yi's voice died away, accompanied by a dragon's roar, the murderous aura of the 5 elements attacked directly towards the mighty figure of West Mountain. Hee, you dog that hasn't seen the world. Do you really think I'm just talking big? Seeing this, the mighty figure of West Mountain didn't hesitate to reach out towards the murderous aura of the 5 elements. The claws were the move that he was famous for. Even today, it was still his main martial art skill. Breaking divine weapons was not a boast. It was real. In the blink of an eye, the mighty figure of West Mountain had already grabbed the murderous aura of the 5 elements. However, before he could show a proud expression, he suddenly felt a sharp pain in his clawed hand. When he took a closer look, he suddenly turned pale with fright. The murderous aura of the 5 elements was not broken by him at all. Instead, it directly wrapped around his arm. At this moment, the black gas on his claw had been crushed by the murderous aura of the 5 elements. The so-called invincible claws of the 5 elements were broken by itself. His 5 fingertips were bleeding profusely. If he didn't find a way to quickly escape, even if he was lucky enough to escape with his life, he would definitely lose his arm. I say, were the divine weapons you encountered before made of paper? Could you even break them like that? Lin Yi looked at him with a calm and unruffled expression. The 5 elemental killing aura was an extremely aggressive and ferocious force. It was complicated and profound, and no force in the world could compare to it, let alone the evil chi of a mere evil cultivator. In front of the 5 elemental killing aura, it was simply trash. The mighty figure of West Mountain was angry and anxious. He couldn't care less about Lin Yi's mockery. He tried his best to shake off the 5 elemental killing aura that was entangling his arm, but his evil energy was completely restrained by the 5 elemental killing aura. No matter how much it came, it would be destroyed. After struggling for a while, there was still no sign of it weakening. It seemed that the ghost was right. Although this guy was a profound ascension late-stage master, his real strength was not comparable to Lung Rufin, who was at the early profound ascension early stage. At least when the latter faced the 5 elemental killing aura, he was far more powerful. As long as he swung his blade, the 5 elemental killing aura could only be cut. It could only be said that comparing oneself to others was infuriating. Lung Rufin was a freak who could cultivate the blade force. No matter where he was a genius among geniuses. On the other hand, the evil cultivator of West Mountain was far worse. Of course, if this guy's aptitude was as heaven-defying as Lung Rufin, he wouldn't be an evil cultivator. Go to hell. The mighty figure of West Mountain was really anxious now. In order to crush the murderous aura of the 5 elements wrapped around his arm, he did not hesitate to pour out all of his evil aura. His entire body was instantly enveloped by black aura, and even the surrounding area of several dozen feet around him became pitch black, as if an evil demon had descended upon the world. When so much extremely rich evil energy gathered together, the 5 elemental killing aura finally showed some signs of defeat, and was gradually expelled and eroded. Just a 5 elemental killing aura was enough to force a profound ascension late-stage evil cultivator into such an embarrassing situation. As a Yuaniing late-stage master, Lin Yi could already be proud. However, there was still a bit of regret on his face. The 5 elemental killing aura was his strongest move now. Sure enough, it was still too difficult to kill the opponent in one move. After all, the difference in strength between them was too big. Of course, even if he couldn't kill the opponent in one move, it was not a big problem to simply kill the opponent. At most, it would take some effort. Take your life while you're sick. Lin Yi, on the other hand, didn't have the habit of letting the enemy recover. Before the Shishan master could completely destroy the 5 elements, a blue arc shot through the air, and the Shishan master didn't even have a chance to react under this lightspeed attack. He was hit in an instant. The blue arc flashed and disappeared into his forehead, and the West Mountain mighty figure's whole body suddenly froze. This was the time when he concentrated all the evil energy in his body to deal with the 5 elemental killing aura. Although the blue arc itself did not have any damage, this sudden paralysis effect was simply killing him. The West Mountain mighty figure was in a stalemate for a moment, and the originally weakened 5 elemental killing aura immediately made a comeback. The most terrible thing was that Lin Yi took the opportunity to add another one. Anyway, for him, there was an endless supply of zhenqi. As long as there was time and space, it was easy to throw 8 or 10 of them. A dignified, profound ascension late-stage evil cultivator, at this time, could only look at the 2 intertwined 5 elemental killing aura on his arm speechlessly. Especially every time he was about to use all his strength to expel it, there would immediately be another blue arc on top of his head. The paralysis effect was so annoying that the West Mountain mighty figure was about to cry. Damn it, can I still keep this arm of mine? I really didn't realize it before, but I didn't expect you to be so wretched. Seeing the West Mountain mighty figure in a fluster, the ghost thing suddenly laughed. Senior, don't talk nonsense. How am I wretched? Lin, he was speechless. You're not wretched? Relying on your endless zhenqi to use all kinds of life-risking ultimate moves, the power of thunder and lightning and the 5 elemental killing aura, and you still hide far away. If this isn't wretched, then what is? The ghost thing curled its lips. Senior, this is called a sense of crisis. If this guy has any trump cards, wouldn't it be courting death to rush up rashly? Linny corrected it in a bad mood. He wanted to rush up and fight with his fists, but the problem was that the other party was a profound Ascension late-stage expert, and not a soft persimmon that could be pinched by others. If he rushed up at this time, he would definitely become the other party's breakthrough point. It was obvious that he could rely on a series of moves to properly kill the opponent, but in the end, he still wanted to rush up and play with fire. In Lin Yi's view, this was not called bravery, but idiocy. Chapter 48:15. Lin Yi couldn't help but be a little speechless at his bad taste. However, just as the two were talking, the West Mountain mighty figure, who was about to be tortured by the murderous aura of the 5 elements and the power of thunder and lightning, suddenly let out an inhuman roar. When Lin Yi reacted, this guy had already disappeared, and there was something left at the place where he was just now. Lin Yi looked carefully and was shocked. It was a bloody arm. Escaped? Lin Yi couldn't help but be a little speechless when he saw this scene. The evil cultivator was really ruthless. In order to get rid of the murderous aura of the 5 elements, he did not hesitate to cut off an arm. Although this was the simplest and most effective method, there were definitely not many people who could have such courage to do this. He didn't know that this West Mountain mighty figure was really a ruthless person. Looking around, Lin Yi could no longer find the figure of the West Mountain mighty figure. Except for the bloody broken arm on the ground, there was not even a trace of blood left in other places. It was as if he had evaporated into thin air. It seems that he really escaped. Lin Yi's face suddenly showed a little pity. This West Mountain mighty figure obviously wanted to kill him. No matter what, he had to get rid of him. Otherwise, there would be a big hidden danger in the future. But although he seemed to be very relaxed just now, in fact, he had already used all his means. Since the other party used this kind of method to escape, there was really no way he could do anything about it. After looking around and finding no more unusual movements, Lin Yi immediately prepared to continue his journey. At this moment, a strange change suddenly occurred. A powerful black gas rose from all directions, and the blood and evil revealed in it made people breathless. The originally bright sky became turbid in the blink of an eye, and one could not see their fingers in front of them. Lin Yi suddenly felt that something was wrong. Without hesitation, he used the super butterfly micro-step to leave the place. Although it was almost a one-sided beating of the opponent just now, he still could not be careless. Underestimating any profound ascension late stage, Cultivator's desperate counterattack was no different from suicide. Although he was in the dark, it could not block his divine senses. After locking onto the direction, Lin Yi quickly moved. The speed of the super butterfly subtle steps was unquestionable, and he was able to move 10 miles away in an instant. However, the strange thing was that no matter how hard Lin Yi tried to dodge, he could not escape from the black gas. Lin Yi was shocked. It was impossible for the black gas to envelop the surrounding 100 miles. How terrifying was its power! As soon as this thought appeared, it was rejected by Lin Yi himself. This was because his divine sense told him that this black chi could only cover an area of 5 kilometers at most. The reason why he couldn't get rid of it was purely because when he moved, this black chi was also moving rapidly with him. But why didn't he see the mighty figure of West Mountain? Lin Yi was secretly puzzled. He did not detect the figure of the Shishan Almighty in the black chi. Otherwise, he would have used the 5 elements killing chi and the power of thunder and lightning to deal with this guy. Could it be that the guy just released this black chi to trap people, and he took advantage of the situation to escape? This was not impossible, but since this black chi could move, there must be someone controlling it. It was impossible that the Shishan Almighty just made a mark on him and let the black chi follow him from then on, right? Then I can't see the light. This is 2F** Ket up. When Lin Yi thought of this, He could not help but feel speechless, although he could use his divine sense to explore the surroundings. And this black chi could not really hinder his movements. Anyone would be annoyed after staying in this dark environment for a long time. How could he see people like this? In particular, this black chi was full of blood and evil. It did not affect him for a while, but who knew if there would be any terrible side effects after a long time? Don't worry. You don't need to see the light in the future, because you will soon go to see the king of hell. Jia, 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 jia. A bone-chilling voice suddenly sounded from all directions. It was the mighty figure of West Mountain who had disappeared without a trace. Lin, he was suddenly shocked. It turned out that this guy did not escape, but had been hiding around him. But why did his divine sense not find him? Could it be that this black chi could not block the divine sense, but it could have a confusing effect, making his divine sense blind to the Shishan, Almighty who was close at hand? The King of Hell? I am not very familiar with him, so please help me say hello first. Linny was vigilant of everything around him, and he sneered, I saw that in order to save your life, you even gave up your arm, and I thought you were a smart person who knew when to advance and when to retreat. I didn't expect you to dare to stay behind and play tricks. Are you evil cultivators so stupid? Humph, you reckless dog. Do you really think I will run away? The Shishan Almighty's voice was suddenly angry, and it seemed that he was provoked by Lin Yi's words. He gritted his teeth and said, I admit that I have indeed underestimated you. A mere late nascent soul stage can force me to this point, forcing me to cut off my arm. This is just right. I will let you have a good look today and let you see our Shishan faction's signature skill. Shishan evil faction's signature skill? Is it to cut off your own arm? That's very powerful, but I am very curious about how many arms you have. If you cultivate a few more times, won't you be dismembered by 5 horses? Lin Yi was secretly on guard, but his words were mercilessly provoking the Almighty's nerves. As long as he made the Almighty impulsive and angry, he would have a chance to find a flaw and kill him. Jia Jia, it seems that you really have not seen the world. You don't even know our most powerful blood sacrifice. Then just wait for your death. As the Shishan Almighty's voice fell, the smell of blood in the surrounding black gas became more and more intense, and even faintly showed signs of turning red, giving people the feeling that they were trapped in blood. Not only was it extremely disgusting, but it was also difficult to move. The warning of the jade pendant suddenly sounded, and Lin Yi did not have time to guess what was going on. He did not hesitate to escape, but this time his speed was greatly affected, and he could only reach half of his previous speed, and the black gas that had turned into blood was like maggots in his bones, and he could not get rid of it for a while. You still want to escape at this time? I will pay the price of an arm for the blood sacrifice. Do you think you can still escape? No matter how stupid and ignorant you are, there should be a limit. Jia, 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 jia. The Shishan Almighty sneered. Lin Yi was very anxious. The blood sacrifice that the other party mentioned was an extremely evil and powerful move. Maybe it was the trump card of these evil cultivators. Even a rabbit would bite when it was cornered, not to mention that the other party was an evil cultivator in the late profound ascension stage. This was really not easy to deal with. Chapter 48:16. But the problem was that he couldn't find the other party's real body. If he continued to be entangled, it would be his turn to be beaten up unilaterally. He didn't even know how to fight back. Just as Lin Yi was thinking about how to deal with it, an amazing suction suddenly came from behind him. At first, it felt similar to the previous Ripper Claw, but then he realized that something was wrong. This time, not only was the force 10 times stronger than before, but because of the bloody black gas around him, he felt as if he had sunk into a quagmire. Even the slightest movement was extremely strenuous, not to mention resisting the sudden suction force behind him. In the darkness, a ferocious bloody finger with a dim light was pressed against Lin Yi's back. It was about to pierce his heart from behind in the next moment, but Lin Yi was unaware of it. Fortunately, there was a warning from the jade pendant. At the critical moment, Lin Yi did not hesitate to use extreme butterfly microsteps. At the same time, he spared no effort to madly eject genuine qi behind him. His whole body finally broke free from the double shackles of the blood and the suction, and rushed forward like a cannonball. However, before Lin Yi could breathe a sigh of relief, the warning from the jade pendant suddenly sounded again. This time, the suction from behind suddenly changed direction and directly sucked forward. Because of the speed that he had just burst out with all his strength, Lin Yi couldn't even stop this time. His body rushed forward uncontrollably. Finally, Lin Yi found the ferocious bloody finger waiting in front of him. His scalp suddenly went numb because he couldn't control himself at all. If this went on, he would be pierced by the bloody finger. At first glance, this bloody finger was 100 times more dangerous than the Ripper Claw just now. F***ck it. At the critical moment, Lin Yi's blood was finally aroused. He couldn't care so much anymore. Since he couldn't stop, he would rush forward and see who was fiercer than who. At this moment, Lin Yi sent 2 5-elements murderous aura forward, and at the same time, he added the power of thunder and lightning. If he did this, he would definitely be hurt by the bloody finger, but the mighty figure of Shishan would definitely not be much better. It was completely a posture of fighting with his life. You want to exchange a life for a life with this old man? You're looking down on me too much. The mighty figure of West Mountain sneered. Before he finished speaking, the bloody finger in front of him silently disappeared into the blood. Lin Yi was horrified. Although the path ahead of him had become smooth, everything he had done just now had been for naught. This result was much more depressing than having both sides suffer losses, because he was simply being toyed with by the opponent. Only Lin Yi could continuously replenish his true qi at any time. If it was someone else, just this one move would cause a great loss in strength. This Shishan Almighty was really sinister and cunning. He could easily consume the opponent's true qi with just a few dangerous moves. It was practically effortless. This blood sacrifice is really strange. Lin Yi complained in his heart because of the lingering black gas and blood around him. This place had completely become the opponent's home ground. He couldn't even touch a shadow. The opponent could fight whenever he wanted to and leave whenever he wanted to. If he relaxed even a little, the consequences would be unimaginable. If this continued, even an immortal would be dragged down. It seems that this is not a trash evil cultivator. He's quite capable. He even knows such an arrogant trick like blood sacrifice. Although the level of blood sacrifice is relatively low, it is invincible in the profound ascending stage. You're really unlucky. Hurry up and find a way to escape. You can't beat him. The ghostly thing said calmly. Damn, Senior, you've tricked me to death. Lin Yi suddenly complained. Before, it was the ghostly thing who instigated him to lure out the mighty figure of West Mountain and kill him. The result was great. Instead, it was the other party who kept chasing him, and he couldn't do anything about it. This time, he was really tricked by the ghostly thing. How would I know that a mere evil cultivator of the profound ascending stage would also know blood sacrifice? This is your own bad luck. You can't blame it on me. The ghostly thing smiled embarrassedly. In fact, this matter really couldn't be blamed on him. Even with his vision and knowledge, blood sacrifice was a powerful move. The existence of the blood sacrifice domain made these evil cultivators invincible. In addition, their attack power would also increase along with the first mates. So when facing experts of the same level, it was as easy as cutting melons and vegetables. They could even easily kill enemies of a higher level. The only bad thing was that the price of using this technique was very high. Just like this time, the almighty expert of the West Mountain directly used up one of his arms. Okay, it's my own bad luck, okay? Lin-Yi was speechless for a while and smiled bitterly. This time, he had completely given up the idea of continuing to deal with the mighty figure of West Mountain. After all, even the ghostly thing said that it couldn't beat the other party. Then there was definitely no way to fight. The restriction effect of the blood sacrifice domain was obvious, especially for those masters of speed. Once trapped in it, they would be restrained to death. Fortunately, the difference between Lin-Yi and the ordinary masters of speed was that his speed was faster, and his true chi was unlimited. With the terrifying speed of the extreme butterfly microstep, even after it was reduced by 50%, it was still very impressive. In addition, from time to time, Lin-Yi would release a burst of true chi regardless of the cost. Not only did the whole person maintain the extremely fast inertia, but the more important thing was that the trajectory of the movement was erratic. One moment it was left, the next moment it was right. Every change was very abrupt and without warning. It made the mighty figure of West Mountain, who had the absolute initiative, unable to find a suitable opportunity to kill him. This dog runs fast. The mighty figure of West Mountain suddenly couldn't calm down. He paid the price of an arm to use the blood sacrifice. If he still couldn't kill Lin-Yi, then it would be a big loss. In fact, in this blood sacrifice domain, if he was willing to fight with Lin-Yi until both of them were injured, there would be opportunities like just now. But he was not willing. He had already paid an arm. If he fought with someone else until both of them were injured, it was estimated that he would be crippled even if he didn't die. Then, even if he killed Lin-Yi, what was the point? He killed Lin-Yi just to pave the way with Lin-Yi's head, so that he could get on the line of the West Mountain Old Master and then soar to the sky. But if he was crippled because of this, his strength would greatly decline. Then, not to mention soar to the sky, just the evil cultivators of the same sect here would be able to skin him alive. The mighty figure of West Mountain who used the blood sacrifice to escape was powerful, but in terms of the ability to escape, even the West Mountain Old Master, who was at the opening stage, couldn't do anything to Lin-Yi, let alone him, who was at the late stage of profound ascension. Fortunately, Chunxing City was not far ahead. Lin-Yi was happy to see this. As long as he escaped, the almighty being would not dare to chase him. You think you can escape like this? Go and die. Seeing this, the almighty being could not care about anything else. This time, in order to block Lin-Yi's path, he did not hesitate to reveal his true form. There was no other way. If he did not stop this kid now, he would not have another chance. Lin-Yi could not help but be shocked. If they were in the wilderness, he might really fight to the death with the almighty being, because this was the only chance he had to lock onto the almighty being. However, it was different now. The chance of winning was probably less than 30%. And now that he was one step away from entering Chunxing City, even a fool would know what to choose. Boom! There was a sudden loud sound in the bloody black gas, and even the ground around Chunxing City shook. Then, a figure rushed out of the bloody black gas, looking slightly pathetic, and rushed into Chunxing City without stopping. Fortunately, I prepared a vital energy bomb in advance. Otherwise, it would be hard to tell if I'm dead or alive. Lin-Yi looked back with lingering fear. At this moment, because he had attracted a lot of people to watch, the bloody black gas had disappeared into thin air. Even the almighty being was nowhere to be seen. It seemed that he had escaped when he saw that the situation was not good. At the same time, a one-armed man appeared in the crowd outside the city. It was the almighty being. This bastard! How can he be so cunning? The almighty being watched from afar as Lin Yi entered Qinxing City. He was so angry that he gritted his teeth. In theory, the blood sacrifice domain could turn the enemy's vital energy attack into his own. That was why he could last for so long. In fact, the more Lin Yi attacked, the longer he could maintain the blood sacrifice domain. However, it was different this time. The power of the vital energy bomb directly exceeded the upper limit of the blood sacrifice domain. Not only did it shatter the blood sacrifice domain, it even caused the Almighty Being to suffer a heavy backlash. No, I can't let him escape so easily. I'm going to risk it all. The Almighty Being gritted his teeth and walked towards Qinxing City. Under normal circumstances, he would not dare to enter a school's main city. However, it was not completely impossible. As long as everyone was not carefully checked during martial law, it would not be a problem for him to sneak in as long as he kept a low profile. Of course, as sneaking around, the Almighty Being would not dare to make a move in the city, not to mention openly killing someone. If he revealed even the slightest bit of an evil cultivator's aura, he would definitely die a horrible death. The orthodox cultivators might not dare to meddle in other people's business outside, but it was different in Qinxing City. After all, there were many people, the Almighty Being followed from afar. Seeing that Lin Yi had checked into a large inn, he quickly turned around and found a corner to squat down. He watched the direction of the inn while sighing gloomily. Now that he had lost an arm and suffered the backlash of the blood sacrifice domain, he wanted to find a place to recuperate and recuperate. Unfortunately, with his identity as an evil cultivator, he did not dare to follow Lin Yi into such a large inn in the main city. The checks in such a place were much stricter than outside. As an evil cultivator, he could not hide at all. Lin Yi was different. He was a legitimate disciple of the 3 pavilions of the North Island. Moreover, he had an identity token, so there was no problem at all for him to check in. Of course, the price of such a place was definitely not cheap. However, was Lin Yi someone who lacked spiritual jades? That trash evil cultivator is still following him. I didn't know that this guy was not only strong, but also quite persistent. The ghostly thing reminded him jokingly. I know. From the looks of it, he doesn't dare to make a move in the city. Whatever. I'll deal with him when I have the chance. Lin Yi lay comfortably on the bed, with his arms and legs spread out. The escape had really tired him out. Even if his true chi was endless, the mental pressure alone was not easy to bear. Chapter 48:18. After resting for a whole day in the inn, Lin Yi finally recovered his energy. He was eager to see Wang Xinyan and Wang Xiaotao, but he didn't head to the Morning Star Academy just like that. After wandering around for so long, Lin Yi had a lot of experience, and he knew that he had to ask some questions first. Only by finding out the rules and the way would he be able to get twice the result with half the effort. Otherwise, with the East Continent Academy's attitude, he'd get into trouble if he rashly barged in, especially if he accidentally pissed off someone powerful. He wouldn't even know how he died. Coming out of the inn, Lin Yi glanced at the West Mountain Powerhouse in the faraway street corner with a faint smile. He was a profound Ascension late-stage evil practitioner, but now he'd almost become a beggar on the street, and there were even people giving him alms. Just thinking about it was pitiful. After asking around for a bit, Lin Yi headed straight for the largest market in Morning Star City. There were many people here, and it was the best place to ask about all sorts of news. Following the flow of people, they wandered in the marketplace. In terms of scale, this marketplace was not much worse than the North Islands. But considering that this was just a small city in Dongzhou State, and the marketplace in the North Island represented the highest standard in the North Island, the gap between them was self-evident. After a while, Lin Yi followed the crowd to a notice board. There were all kinds of announcements, and a large group of people gathered there to watch, whispering to each other. Linny glanced at it. There were all kinds of announcements, such as wanted posters, new rules of the main city, current news, and so on. The one that attracted the most attention was an announcement about an auction. Morning Star auction ceremony. Lin looked at the contents of the announcement while listening to the discussions around him. He couldn't help but feel a little moved. Since he was here, he might as well go and join in the fun. From the looks of it, this auction was the highest standard auction in Morningstar City. He had never seen an auction in the Eastern Continent for 2 months, so he was sure that there would be all kinds of super high-grade rare treasures. After all, this was the Eastern Continent, and the standard couldn't be lower than the auctions on the other Heaven Rank Islands. Although he had this thought, it shouldn't be that easy to participate in the Morningstar auction. Although the time and location were stated on the notice, there was no other concrete information. It also didn't say what qualifications one had to have to enter. It couldn't be that just anyone could sneak in. It seemed that he had to find someone to investigate the specific situation. After a few glances, Lin retreated and continued to stroll around the market. From what he knew, markets in many places didn't just trade goods. In fact, there were also local tyrants who specialized in trading information. As long as one could afford the price, it was easy to find all kinds of secret information from these people. However, many of these local tyrants had underground businesses that couldn't see the light of day. If one didn't pay attention to the special signs on the streets, it would be very difficult to find them just by strolling around. Fortunately, Lin was experienced and knowledgeable. As long as he paid attention, it shouldn't be difficult to find them. After going with the flow for a while, Lin suddenly stopped in his tracks. It wasn't because he found some street signs, but because the signboard of the Merchant Association in front of him made him feel very familiar. Morningstar City's Hong Merchant Association. Although he didn't plan to buy anything, and he didn't know anyone in this place, he was only an honorary vice president. Within the Hong Merchant Association, only Hong Zhong and Honest Chai were familiar with him. He hadn't even seen the others. However, Lin still walked in subconsciously. "What do you need, sir?" A waiter immediately came up to greet him warmly. His etiquette was very on point. It could be seen that he was well trained. Just in terms of the quality of his employees, he was better than the other branches on Heaven Island. "Oh, nothing. I'm just looking around." Lin waved his hand. He didn't plan to reveal his identity for the time being. Although his status as the honorary vice president was considered high and mighty, not every branch would be willing to give in to him. If he rashly went to the branch manager here to inquire about information, it might instead cause unexpected problems. Who knew if it would be another Wei Xiaodong? "That's good. Sir, if you need anything, feel free to call me." The waiter smiled and left tactfully. Looking along the rows of goods, Lin Yi's eyes couldn't help but light up. He actually saw some 6th and even 7th grade elixirs, and there were quite a few of them. This greatly surprised Lin. These were rare goods that were rarely seen on the market. Although there were no heaven-defying 7th grade elixirs like the Thunder Xian pill or the Beauty pill among them, they were still 6th and 7th grade elixirs. Lin had never seen such high-grade elixirs in the Northern Island branch. Even if there were, they would not be publicly displayed on the first floor, and there would not be so many of them. If these elixirs were to be auctioned in the Middle Island, North Island, or even the extreme North Island, it would definitely be an unimaginable astronomical figure. The prices here weren't low either, but they couldn't be compared to the prices on the other sky-class islands. Lin realized a huge loophole. If someone were to specifically buy the 6th and 7th level pills here and bring them to the other sky-class islands to be auctioned, wouldn't they be able to make a huge profit off the price difference? However, after seeing the line of text at the bottom of these elixirs display cabinets. Lin Yi suddenly understood that such an obvious loophole could not exist because it was clearly written, the above elixirs are only sold in the Yellow Sea area of the East Continent. These elixirs are actually sold in different regions. Although he could figure out the reason, Lin Yi still felt a little surprised because this method was exactly the same as those in the secular world. After all, some things in the secular world were also sold in different regions, and shopping malls were not allowed to trade goods at will. He did not expect that the same rule would be set here. Sure enough, all businessmen in the world were smart people. The waiter had been paying attention to Lin Yi's side. Seeing this, he immediately came up and explained enthusiastically, Sir, you may not know this, but most of the chambers of commerce in the East Continent cooperate with the alchemists of the Academy. Therefore, in order to ensure the transcendent status of the East Continent, these elixirs can only be circulated in the East Continent and are not allowed to be sold outside. Chapter 48:19. What if someone buys it and secretly brings it to other Heaven Stage islands? You can't check them one by one, can you? Lin Yi asked with great interest. If they went out of the East Continent, they would have to be searched one by one to prevent them from carrying any elixirs. Unfortunately, this was impossible. It's useless. Even if someone buys it and secretly brings it out, they can't sell it publicly because each of these restricted elixirs has a special mark number. The chambers of commerce on other Heaven Stage islands are not allowed to buy it privately, let alone sell it privately. Otherwise, they will be heavily punished by the merchant union, the waiter explained with a smile. I see. Lin Yi nodded. However, there was still a possibility of being smuggled. After all, as long as they didn't sell it publicly, they could trade it secretly without anyone knowing. Of course, this was not a small risk because it was equivalent to offending the East Continent and the Merchant Union at the same time. Once it was found out, the consequences would be unimaginable. However, as long as the benefits were high enough, there would always be people who would take the risk. It was almost impossible to completely eliminate this kind of thing. However, there was a more difficult factor, and that was the treasure ships and battleships that came and went. Not everyone could go to other islands if they wanted to. While Lin Yi and Lin Yi were talking, another waiter was also paying attention to this side. After listening for a while, he hurriedly ran to report, "Shopkeeper, there is a man who doesn't seem to be from the East Continent asking about the restricted elixirs. He asked very carefully. Maybe he wants to buy elixirs and secretly smuggle them back. Do you want to keep an eye on him?" "Oh, I'll go and see for myself." The shopkeeper immediately stood up. This kind of thing could not be careless. If someone really smuggled out and was found, not only would the smuggler be killed, but the Chamber of Commerce that bought the elixirs would also be punished. After all, no one knew whether the two parties colluded or not. They would definitely be punished 50 times as a warning to others. The shopkeeper was led by the waiter to stand in front of Lin Yi. After a careful look, he was stunned. He looked at Lin Yi again and again in disbelief. Finally, he confirmed the identity of the shopkeeper and said, "Vice President Lin?" Lin Yi heard the voice and turned to look at the person. He couldn't help but be stunned. "Shopkeeper Chai, why are you here?" The person who had arrived was none other than Honest Chai, whom Lin Yi had personally groomed in the South Continent. However, this fellow was not obediently staying at the Y Arc branch in South Continent as a shopkeeper. What was he doing here? Could it be that he had been transferred to East Continent? Listening to the conversation between the two waiters couldn't help but look at each other in dismay. As it turned out, this fellow was actually an acquaintance of the shopkeeper. However, which faction was the title of vice president? He couldn't possibly be from the Hong Chamber of Commerce, right? The names of the vice presidents were all recorded during training, but none of them had the surname Lin, right? Vice President Lin, it really is you. I didn't dare to recognize you at first glance and thought I was seeing things. I didn't expect to meet you here. Honest Chai was pleasantly surprised and suggested, "It's not convenient to reminisce here. Why don't we go to a private room and have some tea?" "All right." Linny nodded, and the two of them sat down in the private room. Honest Chai quickly ordered someone to brew a pot of high-grade spiritual tea, and when there was no one around, Linny asked, "You are the shopkeeper here? In other words, you were transferred to the East Continent?" "That's right. I was just transferred here in the past half a year. I didn't expect to meet you here." Honest Chai was a little surprised and laughed, but then he slapped his head and said, "Look at my brain. Your junior sister, Miss Huang, is in the Morning Star Academy. It's natural for you to come here." Haha, from the Y-Arc branch of the South Continent to the Morning Star Academy branch of the East Continent. Shopkeeper Chai, this is a big promotion for you. Lin-Yi looked at him meaningfully. Although they were both shopkeepers, one was in the South Continent, while the other was in the East Continent. The difference in power between the two was like heaven and earth. Everyone knew that the East Continent branch was the most popular and lucrative position, but in the chaotic South Continent Sea region, it was undeniably a tough job. The profits from both sides were on completely different levels. In the past, Wei Xiaodong had been transferred from a vice shopkeeper here to the official shopkeeper of the Y-Arc branch of the South Continent. Even so, he had been promoted on the surface, but demoted on the inside, causing him to feel depressed. One could imagine the difference between the two. "Vice President, you must be joking. This is all thanks to you. If it wasn't for you, we wouldn't have formed an alliance with the Equal Heaven Escort Agency. If it wasn't for you, how could we have become the new hegemon of the South Continent?" Honest Chai explained as he poured a cup of tea for Lin. "Oh, you mean that the Equal Heaven Escort Agency has contributed a lot." Lin-Yi blinked his eyes. "That's right, we are all in the same boat. With the rise of the Equal Heaven Escort Agency, the business of our Y-Arc branch also rose with the tide, gradually expanding to the entire South Continent Sea region. If it wasn't for this, how could I have any achievements that would attract the attention of the higher-ups in the headquarters? Without any outstanding achievements, it would be impossible for me to be transferred to the East Continent." Honest Chai nodded. Transferred to the East Continent because of outstanding achievements? This reason sounded reasonable, but after careful consideration, Lin-Yi realized that it didn't hold up. One must know that in a place like the Hong Chamber of Commerce, one's achievements alone could not guarantee a promotion, especially with Honest Chai's meager qualifications. He had only been a branch manager for less than 2 years and was suddenly transferred to the East Continent. How could one be promoted so quickly? The lucrative positions in the East Continent branches were definitely in the hands of the higher-ups in the headquarters. Without the approval of these higher-ups, no matter how outstanding Honest Chai's achievements in the South Continent were, it was all for naught. Unless Hong Zhong gave him full support, then he would only have a sliver of a chance. However, Hong Zhong had been staying in the North Island all this time and had basically been pushed out of the core circle of the headquarters. Even if he wanted to help Honest Chai, it wouldn't be that easy. The last time Honest Chai was able to take the position of the Y-Arc branch manager was purely due to special circumstances. Thinking about it this way, the problem arose. How did Honest Chai get transferred to the East Continent? There must be a reason behind it, and it definitely wasn't as simple as his outstanding achievements. Unless he found another powerful backer, Honest Chai was someone that Lin-Yi and Hong Zhong had groomed. To seek refuge with another backer without their approval was no different from betrayal. Chapter 48:20. It's not as simple as just outstanding results, right? Shopkeeper Chai, I really want to know how you were transferred here. Why don't you explain it to me? Lin Yi's face darkened. Honest Chai saw that Lin Yi's expression was not right and immediately reacted. Even though he looked weak and honest, he was still a businessman. His shrewdness was unquestionable, and this could be seen from how he dared to secretly record Wei Xiaodong's shady accounts. Vice President, don't think too much about it. Outstanding results is just a cover. This matter is indeed complicated. Let me slowly explain it to you. Honest Chai hurriedly admitted. Speak, I'm listening. Lin Yi said without batting an eyelid. Actually, it wasn't because of my outstanding results in the South Continent. On the contrary, it was because they saw that I had made the Y branch's business bigger and stronger. Thus, the higher-ups from the headquarters wanted to take over the Y branch, using the excuse that my promotion was not in line with the rules to suppress me. Then, they sent their own trusted aides to take over the Y branch. Honest Chai said with a bitter smile. Linny nodded. Even though he had never been to the headquarters of the Hong family enterprise, but from Hong Zhong's previous experience, he could tell that the people from the headquarters were indeed like that, because they had hitched a ride on the Equal Heaven Escort Agency. Everyone was originally disdainful of the Y branch, but in the end, they discovered that it had suddenly become a juicy, juicy cake. Especially Honest Chai, the current shopkeeper, who did not have much experience and was promoted as a special case. It would be strange if no one thought of taking over. What happened after that? Linny asked. You also know that other than you and Vice President Hong, I don't know any of the higher-ups from the headquarters. Originally, this matter was already set in stone, and no one would speak up for me. In the end, after Vice President Hong heard the news, he rushed back to the headquarters on Middle Island overnight to speak up for me. Honest Chai said, emotionally, with Old Hong's character, it's not strange for him to do so. Lin Yi smiled faintly. Hong Zhong was an experienced businessman, but Lin Yi realized that he was still a chivalrous man deep down in his bones. He was willing to sacrifice himself for his friends, and that wasn't something Hong Zhong wouldn't do. It was said that all businessmen were unscrupulous. Hong Zhong's character was actually not suitable for his identity. In many cases, only unscrupulous people could climb up the ladder faster, while people like him would be ostracized. However, Hong Zhong was very suitable to be an ally, a reliable ally who could trust him with his back. Yes, but the situation during the meeting was full of twists and turns. Even though Vice President Hong tried his best, he was still unable to secure my position as the Y Arc branch's manager. There was no choice. They were adamant that a local promotion was against the rules. Even though it was due to the special circumstances back then, the special circumstances have long passed. Naturally, we have to set things right. Honest Chai smiled bitterly. Humph, getting rid of the donkey once it's out of the millstone. Lin, he could imagine the situation back then. Hong Zhong must have been extremely helpless and dejected. This was something that could not be helped. Even though he was the vice president, he did not have the authority to speak. Helping Honest Chai at the last minute would only result in him returning in defeat. This was already a foregone conclusion. If not for Vice President Hong's insistence, this matter would have ended there. No one would have paid any attention to me as the previous Y Arc branch's manager. I would not even be able to remain as the original vice president. However, Vice President Hong strongly argued that I was a meritorious person. Even if I were to be transferred out of the Y Arc branch, I must not be dealt with carelessly. Otherwise, it would disappoint everyone. Honest Chai grinned at this point and rejoiced. Come to think of it, I was really lucky. The Morning Star branch's manager was about to be transferred, and the position became vacant. So you took advantage of the situation and transferred over here? It can't be that easy, right? Linny asked doubtfully. Of course, it's not that easy. Every carrot has its own pit. This Morning Star branch's manager position has already been eyed by another high-ranking member of the headquarters. That person is Wei Xiaodong's backer, Vice President Ren. Honest Chai said. Humph, after Wei Xiaodong's matter, he still has the face to continue eyeing this place? Lin curled his lips in disdain. Vice President Hong also raised this objection on the spot. After all, because of Wei Xiaodong, this Morning Star branch has already fallen out with the Morning Star Academy. You should know the situation here in Morning Star City. From top to bottom, the Morning Star Academy has the final say. How can one live a good life if they fall out with the Morning Star Academy? The reason why the previous manager applied for a transfer was because he could no longer continue working here. Otherwise, who would give up such a lucrative position so easily? Honest Chai shook his head. If that's the case, even though this is the East Continent, it's no longer a lucrative position. Once it's sealed off by the Morning Star Academy, it can't even be compared to the Y branch. No wonder it landed on you. Linny laughed. Indeed, but that Vice President Ren did not intend to give up this position. It's just that Vice President Hong said that I was personally promoted by you. Furthermore, you have a good relationship with the higher-ranking members of the Morning Star Academy, especially since your junior sister is the personal disciple of the godly nun of the Eastern Sea. It would be more convenient for me to start my business here. With this, the other higher-ranking members of the headquarters had no objections. After all, it doesn't affect their own interests. Furthermore, that Vice President Run had nothing to say due to Wei Xiaodong's previous stain. Thus, this matter was decided. I see. Linny looked at Honest Chai apologetically. It seemed like he had wronged him. This manager of the Morning Star branch also had many twists and turns. These were all things that Vice President Hong told me in his letter. Actually, even after I mentioned your name, that Vice President Ren still didn't want to let go. However, the higher-ranking member who suggested for me to be transferred started arguing with him. He couldn't even take care of himself, so he had no choice but to accept his fate. Honest Chai laughed. Oh, that fella is afraid that if he doesn't settle you down, his position as the Y branch's manager won't be stable. That's fine too. Let them fight amongst themselves, and you'll be able to take advantage of it. Lin couldn't help but laugh. It's all thanks to you that I'm able to take advantage of this situation. If it were anyone else, it would be a chore. When I first arrived, this branch was already on the verge of closing down. Thankfully, I found Miss Huang to help me plead for mercy. Finally, I managed to get the godly nun of the Eastern Sea to speak up and restore our relationship with the Morning Star Academy. Because of this, I was able to gain a foothold here. Otherwise, it would be hard to say what would happen to me. Honest Chai rejoiced. Chapter 48:21. Are you talking about the purchasing Deacon Chin Deli? After the incident with Wei Xiaodong, his days were not good. However, he had a backer in the Morning Star Academy, so he wasn't arrested and pushed all the blame onto our Hong Merchant Association. But this time, the Vice Dean of Eastern Ocean personally came forward, so even he wouldn't dare to obstruct us. After all, he already has a criminal record. Honest Chai explained. And that's good. You've worked hard during this period. Lin patted Honest Chai's shoulder. After understanding the situation, he felt much more relaxed. After all, if Honest Chai really betrayed them, even if he could clean up the house, he wouldn't feel good about it, because that would only mean that he had misjudged him. Not at all. I only got to where I am today because of you and Vice President Hong's care. It's not hard work. It's what I should do. Seeing that Lin Yi finally believed in him, Honest Chai heaved a sigh of relief. Do a good job. You should know what kind of people old Hong and I are. We won't mistreat our own people. Lin Yi encouraged, although Honest Chai wouldn't be of much use. He had a unique side to him in the Merchant Association. As long as he could guarantee his loyalty, there was no harm in nurturing him. Thank you very much for your kindness. I will definitely sacrifice my life for you until the day I die. Honest Chai immediately expressed his stance. He was honest and cowardly, but he wasn't a fool. At this moment, he had to show his loyalty. Otherwise, if he were to be reserved, he might ruin his future. Lin Yi chuckled and remembered the notice he saw on the street. Oh, right. Do you know about the Morningstar auction? I do. It's the highest level auction in Morningstar City. It's held irregularly. The last time it was held was 5 years ago. Honest Chai nodded and asked, Could it be that you're interested? That's right. I'd like to experience it, but I don't know the rules. Lin Yi nodded. I'm sure everyone knows the rules. As long as you are a disciple of the Morningstar Academy, you can participate. All the large merchant associations here also have their own quotas. For example, our Hong Merchant Association can recommend our own people or acquaintances to participate. If you want to participate, why don't you use your own quota? Honest Chai suggested. All right, I'll leave this matter to you. Lin Yi smiled. He wanted to participate in this auction purely on a whim, but since the disciples of the Morningstar Academy could participate, he might even have the chance to meet Wang Xinyan and Wang Xiaotao. As the two of them were talking, someone suddenly called out from outside the door. Shopkeeper, the bill is ready. Do you want to take a look now? Honest Chai looked at Lin Yi inquisitively, to which Lin Yi smiled nonchalantly. It's fine if you have something to do. You can go and do it first. Don't mind me. Honest Chai nodded and said to the door, Old Chai, come in. It's not an outsider inside. As soon as he said that, a middle-aged man with a long beard entered. Lin Yi looked at him and felt that he looked familiar. After thinking for a while, he finally remembered that this was someone from the Y-Arc branch. Back then, when he and Hong Zhong had helped Chai Laosher to become the branch manager of the Y-Arc branch, in order to better control the situation, they had allowed Chai Laosher to pick someone to be the branch's assistant manager. Chai Laosher had recommended this person. Cui Mingshan looked at Lin Yi after entering and was stunned for a while. He hurriedly cupped his hands and greeted. Cui Mingshan greets Vice President Lin. Haha, why are you here too? Lin Yi asked with a smile. Although he had not interacted much, Cui Mingshan could be considered one of his and Hong Zhong's men in the Hong family commerce. Replying to Vice President Lin, this subordinate took the initiative to apply for a transfer after hearing about Shopkeeper Chai's matter. Otherwise, a new emperor will bring his own subordinates. After Shopkeeper Chai leaves, this subordinate will definitely have a hard time. Cui Mingshan smiled bitterly as he looked at Honest Chai. This was a living example. Back in the Y-Arc branch, before Wei Xiaodong came, he was the glorious vice shopkeeper. In the end, when Wei Xiaodong came, he was immediately kicked to the side and became a complete idler. If not for his good fortune of meeting a great benefactor like Lin Yi, he might have been sitting on the bench for the rest of his life. Actually, Old Chai's luck is not bad. Although the transfer of a vice shopkeeper does not need to go through all the higher-ups in the headquarters, other than having the support of the higher-ups, there must be a corresponding vacancy. At that time, the vice shopkeeper of the Morningstar branch applied to be transferred back to the headquarters in Middle Island because his performance was too bad. He would rather go back and do nothing than to frown here. Thus, the position was vacated for Old Chai. Honest Chai added with a smile, Not bad. With the two of you here, you can take care of each other and control the situation better. Working hard in the branch may be difficult for others, but it is a rare opportunity for the two of you. Work hard in the future. And if you have any difficulties, you can look for me, an Elder Hong, anytime. We are all on the same side, and we will not sit idly by. Linny nodded. Originally, whether it was Honest Chai or Chui Mingshan, it was impossible for them to be transferred to the East Continent. However, after Wei Xiaodong and the series of events that followed, the two of them were forcefully pushed to their current positions. This kind of successful experience could not be replicated by others. As the saying goes, heroes are created by the times. Thank you, Vice President Lin, for your concern. Chui Mingshan was overjoyed. Just like Honest Chai, he did not have any backing. Although he was part of Lin, Yi, and Hongzhong's faction, he was at most Honest Chai's follower. Today, he finally received Lin Yi's acknowledgement. This was something he had always dreamed of. All right, old Chai, let's reminisce about the past later. You said that the list is ready? Honest Chai asked. That's right, this is the auction item for today's auction. Please take a look. Chui Mingshan immediately handed over a list. Although this was, of course, secret of the Merchant Association, and it could be easily used by their competitors if it was leaked, Lin Yi was not an outsider in their eyes. Thus, there was no need to hide it. Lin Yi leisurely sat at the side and drank his tea. Honest Chai took the list and scanned it. Immediately, he furrowed his brows and stared at it for a long time. Chapter 48:22. Shopkeeper, I know what you're saying. I've really done my best. I've tried everything that I can think of. Chui Mingshan smiled helplessly and bitterly. Honest Chai scratched his head. Although it was a great achievement to make use of Huang Xiaotao's relationship with the Morning Star Academy, if they were to make a fool of themselves during the auction and their competitors took advantage of it, they might not be able to keep their position as partners. There's nothing we can do. The Morning Star Academy branch was already in a mess before we came here. The suppliers that we've been in contact with have all switched to other companies. Although it has recovered a little in the past half a year, it won't be able to return to its previous scale in a short period of time. It's easier said than done to get high-quality goods. Chui Mingshan sighed, helplessly, seeing the two dejected expressions. Lin Yi, who was drinking tea at the side, was slightly taken aback. He immediately said, "Let me see the list." Oh, although Honest Chai felt a little embarrassed, he still passed the list to Lin Yi. Lin Yi took a quick look. The goods listed weren't of low quality. At least in the South Continent and the other Heaven Islands, they were already rare goods. However, in Lin Yi's eyes, more than half of them weren't that precious. If Lin Yi was like this, then there was no need to mention the wealthy and distinguished guests of the East Continent. It would be difficult to attract much attention with just these goods, let alone stand out in an auction like the Morning Star auction. The dignified Hong Merchant Association would be laughed at if they couldn't bring out any decent goods. Are the goods being auctioned this time very important? Linny couldn't help but ask. From what the two said, this auction seemed to have a great impact on the Hong Merchant Association. Otherwise, they wouldn't be so distressed. It's extremely important. Vice Chairman Lin, you might not know this, but the Morning Star auction is actually aimed at our Hong Merchant Association. Our success or failure will directly affect whether we can gain a foothold here. Honest Chai laughed bitterly. Oh, isn't this the highest standard auction in Morning Star City? Why are they targeting our Hong Chamber of Commerce? Linny couldn't help but ask curiously. The reason is actually very simple. Ever since we fell out with the Morning Star Academy, our Morning Star Academy has been on the decline. Since then, the rights to cooperate with us have fallen into the hands of a few of our competitors. However, because the Vice Dean of the East Sea Academy personally spoke up, we managed to snatch back the rights to cooperate with them. That's why we have a grudge against them. Honest Chai explained. Even if there's no such thing, we're competitors to begin with. Does it really matter whether we have a grudge or not? Linny said noncommittally. That's not the same. In the past, even though these merchant associations were competitors, they had never tasted the sweetness of victory. At most, they would be envious. But this time, we snatched the cooperation rights from their hands. How could they let it go so easily? Honest Chai smiled bitterly. All right, but what does this have to do with the Morning Star auction? Linny asked doubtfully. Any merchant association that can establish a foothold here will more or less have some connection with the higher-ups of the Morning Star Academy. This time, they came forward to pressure the higher-ups of the Academy and requested for the Morning Star auction to be held. It's actually a battle. The merchant association that performs the best in the auction will obtain the rights to cooperate with the Academy and become the sole supplier of the Academy. Honest Chai said bitterly. Oh, even the divine, none of the East Sea, tacitly agreed. He couldn't help but frown. Regardless of the final outcome, this naturally took away the cooperation rights from the Hong Chamber of Commerce. It was also equivalent to slapping the divine, none of the East Sea, in the face. After all, she was the one who helped the Hong Chamber of Commerce recover. Even if she didn't agree, even though the Vice Dean of the East Sea Academy has a high status, she doesn't have the final say in the Morning Star Academy. With so many higher-ups of the Academy coming forward, let alone the Vice Dean, even the Dean Ling Yuanqing wouldn't be able to suppress them with just a sentence. Honest Chai shook his head. Not only that, according to what I know, the chief alchemist of the Morning Star Academy has already formed an alliance with the rich and powerful families. He played a big role in this matter, and it was because of his appearance that the Academy decided to hold the Morning Star auction. Chui Mingshan added, the position of the chief alchemist was extremely high in any Yellow Step Academy in the East Continent. For example, in the Soaring Cloud Academy, Ren Tiansua's position was second only to the dean. In the Morning Star Academy, even if it wasn't as exaggerated, it was still not a small matter, especially when it came to cooperation. No academy would disrespect their chief alchemist for an external merchant association. After all, there were many powerful merchant associations, but if the chief alchemist ran away, it would be very difficult to find a suitable replacement. It would even affect the strength of a large number of academy disciples, so they couldn't afford to be careless. Lin nodded thoughtfully. Suddenly, he thought of the 6th and 7th grade pills in the display cabinet downstairs. He couldn't help but ask, since the Academy's alchemist is already an ally of the other merchant associations, how did the 6th and 7th grade pills downstairs come about? Could it be from the other branches? Vice President Lin, you must be joking. The two of us have just arrived and haven't even seen the shopkeepers of the other branches of the Hong Clan Merchant Association. Who would be so kind as to supply us? This kind of high-grade pill is directly related to one's performance. Everyone would hide it, unless they have a good relationship. Only then would they be able to save the day. Moreover, they would have to return it immediately. Otherwise, it would be useless even if they were beaten to death. Honest Chai smiled bitterly. From a certain perspective, the competition between the branches of the Hong Clan Merchant Association was even more intense than the other merchant associations. After all, the competition with the other merchant associations only affected the merchant association's profits. However, the competition between the shopkeepers of the same branch would directly affect each other's futures. Then how did it come about? Linny asked curiously. As far as he knew, Level 6 and Level 7 elixirs were not available through normal channels. They were either supplied internally by the Hong Chamber of Commerce or cooperated with the school's alchemists. There shouldn't be a third way. To tell you the truth, these pills were all bought one by me and old Chai from other cities. It was basically a losing business, but in order to keep up appearances, we had no choice. Honest Chai said bitterly. Chapter 48:23. When he first walked into the Hong Merchant Guild, he felt that the business here was flourishing with each passing day. However, it was actually filled with danger. If not for him coincidentally bumping into them, Honest Chai and Chui Mingshan might have fallen into misfortune or even be finished. Doesn't that mean that the aristocratic guild will definitely win? Linny asked, since the head alchemist of the Morning Star Academy was the aristocratic guild's ally. The other guilds, including the Hong Merchant Guild, would not be able to compete with them in terms of high-grade pills. When the time comes, the Hong Merchant Guild would definitely be in the limelight. That might not be the case. It's true that the aristocratic guild has the support of the Academy's head alchemist, and it would be easy for them to obtain high-grade pills. However, if they were to auction off the pills refined by the Academy's alchemist, it would not be considered as having any ability. If the Morning Star Academy decided that the aristocratic guild would be the aristocratic guild, because of this, wouldn't they be slapping their own faces? Honest Chai shook his head. He, using the Academy's own pills to give to the aristocratic guild, and then letting the aristocratic guild auction it off to the Morning Star Academy. If this were to spread, people would definitely laugh their heads off. The higher-ups of the Academy would not do such a stupid thing. Linny nodded his head and laughed. That's right. However, the aristocratic guild is still very popular this time. Other than the Academy's alchemist, they have their own channels. Rumor has it that they have prepared a set of 10 golden condensing nascent pills. Honest Chai sighed, unable to conceal the envy on his face. One could not blame him for being envious. The golden condensing nascent pill was the main pill in the Eastern Continent's golden level C, because most of the students here were golden core and nascent soul experts. Everyone could use it. Thus, the price would naturally soar. Especially if a set of 10 was put up for auction, it would definitely fetch a sky-high price. Only 10 golden condensing nascent pills. Lin Yi smiled faintly after hearing that, and said something shocking. Then we'll auction 5 Thunder Profound pills. Huh, what did you say? Honest Chai and Chui Mingshan were dumbfounded. They looked at each other in disbelief, thinking that they were hallucinating. Linny smiled and didn't say anything. He took out the Lightning Shen pills he refined in Soaring Cloud Academy and lined them up in front of the two. Every time he took out a pill, Honest Chai and Chui Mingshan sucked in a breath of cold air. By the time all 5 pills were laid out on the table, the two of them were completely dumbfounded. What? Is that not enough? Linny glanced at the two of them. No. Honest Chai and Chui Mingshan waved their hands. As the shopkeeper and vice shopkeeper of the branch, they were people who had seen the world. Lin Yi taking out 5 Lightning Shen pills in one go was already heaven-defying enough. The 10 golden soul pills that the rich families would give out were on a completely different level compared to this. The value of these pills couldn't even be mentioned in the same breath. In the Yellow Steppe Sea region of the Eastern Continent, the golden nascent condensation pill could only be regarded as the pursuit of ordinary disciples, while the real elite disciples were all trying to break through to the profound ascension realm. Only the profound thunder pill was the pill that they dreamed of, and it was something that they wanted to obtain at all costs. Still not enough? That's fine. Hurry up and get some ingredients. I will use this opportunity to refine some rare pills. Beauty pill and other ingredients can be brought over. Hurry up. Lin Yi ordered. Beauty pill? You can even refine pills of this grade. Honest Chai and Chui Mingshan were completely shocked. They didn't even know that Lin Yi was an alchemist. Moreover, he was a rare seventh grade alchemist. This was enough for him to become the chief alchemist of the school. It's all right. I've only refined the profound lightning pill before. I haven't tried the beauty pill before. I can give it a try. Linny smiled. Vice President is truly an expert. Honest Chai and Chui Mingshan looked at each other with 3 words written on their faces. I'm convinced. Originally, they were at their wits' end. But with the sudden appearance of a great god like Lin Yi, all their problems were easily solved. The 2 of them couldn't wait to send out orders to prepare all kinds of ingredients. The auction would begin in a few days, and time was of the essence. Lin Yi thus stayed at the Hong Clan Merchant Guild to refine pills. The almighty Shishan who had been tailing Lin Yi was speechless. He had been following Lin Yi from afar until he saw Lin Yi walk into the Hong Clan Merchant Guild. Then, he could only wait outside the door. After all, the Hong Clan Merchant Guild might not have as detailed an inspection as an inn, but large-scale merchant guilds like this would have surveillance arrays installed. Who knows, his identity as a heretic cultivator might be exposed. In the end, the almighty Shishan waited for an entire day. Even when the sky turned dark, he didn't see Lin Yi coming out. He couldn't help but feel bewildered. What's going on? Could he have escaped from the back door? But as soon as this thought popped up, he rejected it himself. That couldn't be. His divine sense had been enveloping the surroundings from morning to night, but he didn't find Lin Yi at all. Therefore, there was only one possibility. Lin Yi was still in the Hong Clan Merchant Guild. But now that the Merchant Guild was closed and Lin Yi didn't come out, the almighty Shishan couldn't wait any longer. He couldn't help but go up and ask, "Are there any customers inside?" The waiter in charge of closing glanced at him, shook his head, and said, "I'm sorry, all the customers have left. If you need anything, please come early tomorrow." "Is that so?" The almighty Shishan looked inside, and saw that there was indeed no one inside. He could only shake his head and leave. As he walked, he muttered, "How can that be? That's impossible. TSK, but that kid does have some strange tricks up his sleeves. He might really be able to hide from my divine sense and escape. Could he have returned to the inn?" Thinking of this, the almighty Shishan hurriedly ran back to the inn and waited there. Linny made him suffer so much this time. He wouldn't let this dog off so easily. In the end, the almighty Shishan stayed there for 3 days. With his pitiful appearance as a beggar, the amount of spirit jades he collected was enough to make him rich. But he didn't even see half a shadow of Lin Yi. This time, the almighty Shishan was completely discouraged. Even a beggar who lived in the wilderness for so many days would lose his temper, let alone a mysterious, ascended, late-stage evil practitioner like him. If his fellow sect members saw him like this, he wouldn't be able to raise his head in his next life. There was no other way. The almighty Shishan couldn't endure it anymore. He decided to leave first and come back to settle the score with this dog after he recovered from his injuries. 5 days passed in a flash. Linny stretched his back and walked out of the room that Honest Chai had specially prepared for him. In these few days, other than his normal cultivation, he had been busy refining elixirs. He only came out this morning because today was the official day of the Morningstar auction. You're tuning in to the Mystic Fist YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.